Giants Nation, what is good, man? I hope y'all got some good sleep last night. I know we didn't wake up from the nightmare, man. What a terrible game. I know everybody out there in Giants Nation is having those 2017 vibes. Brandon Marshall vibes all over again, man. It's a very disappointing Monday here. I know we got a lot to talk about on the show. Appreciate everybody pulling up, man. Let's start out real quick with a couple of shout outs to some of the homies who've been here early in the chat. I see y'all in the building. BB Jones in the building. Logic's in the building one time. Stan Albert in the building. My man Bark Nasty's in the building. Definitely a sad day. JJ Stangle in the building. What's up, Balby? I see you in the building one time. Scotty H in the building. What's good with y'all, man? I hope everybody doing all right. Hope you're doing the best you can on a day like today, man. I'm going to get into things really early, but let's recap this game. I just want to say right off the bat, man, Troy Aikman was 100% right. The New York Giants are not in the same class as the Dallas Cowboys. You look at the Cowboys, they started that game with those 2 turnovers that kept us in that game early. But the Giants weren't able to capitalize on the turnovers and got 0 points off 2 turnovers, man, which is very interesting if you ask a Giants fan like myself. Shout out to my homie The Beard one time in the chat. I wanted to start the show with a couple air horns one time and get y'all one of these because that's how our season is definitely feeling, man. 44-20, the Dallas Cowboys take care of the New York Giants. In a game where Daniel Jones never got things clicking, ended up getting hurt on a bootleg play on the goal line. Everybody knows the deal with that. Mike Glennon came in the game. He was 16-25 for 196 yards. Looked better than I thought he might look, but, moving forward, it seems like Mike Glennon might be an issue. We got a tough stretch coming up. Let me pull up the schedule one time just to remind myself as well. We got the Rams next week, who are a perennial Super Bowl contender right now. Then we get the Carolina Panthers, which out of this next stretch of 5 to 6 games looks like it could be one of the easier games on the schedule. But considering all the injuries that happened in this game on Sunday, we lost Kenny Golladay to a knee injury. We lost Saquon Barkley to an ankle injury, which looks to be that's just a sprained ankle. Should have him out for about 2 to 4, maybe 5 weeks, they were saying. We lost Daniel Jones to a major concussion. That looked like a James Harrison concussion. Who else was lost in this game? We already know Andrew Thomas came into this game banged up. I think the real question is who's healthy? Who didn't get hurt in this game? Definitely a sad day for the New York Giants, man, and a lot of optimism. I know on this show that the whole plan has been to be keeping it realistic here. We ain't going to keep it optimistic. We're not going to keep it pessimistic, but we're going to be authentic and keep it realistic. But realistically, I don't know where the Giants are going to get any productivity from this offense, especially in the next couple of games. After that Panthers game, you're going to get the Chiefs, who, they had a tough game last night, but still look like a really good team. Can definitely still put up points on the board. Raiders, bye week, Bucks, Eagles, and then things gets a little bit easier there. But that's a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that we could possibly lose in a row. Giants are sitting at 1-4 right now. If we lose 5 games in a row, my God, to be 1-9 coming out of the bye, that is going to be ridiculous. So I'm not too sure how we're going to clean this up, but we're going to chop it up, man. We're going to talk about it today. I know a lot of Giants fans needed the therapy session, man. I needed the therapy session. I'm one that doesn't like to talk about the games right after the game because, you're riding high on emotions, and emotions can make you kind of pop out of character, and you won't be giving your best assessment. Another reason why you haven't seen Awthentik and the Beard go live for any play-by-plays this year, because play-by-play is very interesting, man. If you go around YouTube yesterday, everyone streams, man. It looked like somebody died, bro. Like, it was a pity party. It was sad. Everybody was down in the dumps. And honestly, man, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I come to YouTube to kind of get a bit of a better, vibe from my team when things are going down. So that's one of my reasons for kind of, laying low on a Sunday and on a Sunday night. Wanted to get Bad Dog on today's show, but we're going to keep it funky and just roll solo. Definitely felt like, had to get a lot off my chest in this game. So I was scouring Twitter. A lot of great Twitter conversations going on right now. I want y'all to know when y'all talk to me on Twitter, it's nothing personal. I'm just going to give you my opinion on things, and that's about that. But we had a bunch on Twitter today, man, and I used Twitter again to be the foundation of, this show and whatnot, just to kind of hear what people are talking about and things like that. We got 36 in the building already, bright and early, man. I already got a super chat here. We're going to pull this one up real quick from the homie. The beard knows how to pronounce this one so much better. Kathinji Kinoti. I think I got that right. Skura apparently got a little banged up too. So even if Thomas is back, too much flux on the line. I need this therapy from you. Bad mood all day. Definitely there with you, man. And it's raining in D.C. today too, man. It definitely matches the vibes of the New York Giants today, man, because it's a tough day, man. This was a big storm, big cloud hanging over the New York Giants' head today, man. And I think we realized a lot, from this game, and depth being one of them. I think a lot of people like to look at a roster, and everybody wants to look at the primary names that are on the roster, the starters, the first string, and people want to ignore the backups, the people that when something goes wrong have to come into a game. And yesterday I was in a lot of chats. Shout out to Entertainer, Bad Dog, KB, The Hub, Big Pat, Diggy. A lot of people were live, and I was popping into lives all throughout the day. And even with the injury, down 17-10, it was about 10-10, I want to say, when Daniel got hurt. I was trying to instill faith in people, man. Like, you can't give up and have faith in these backup players because they are players too. I know a lot of people like to get caught up in the superstars and things like that. But, it is important to have depth on your team, man. We have to find ways that when players go down, next man up, and be able to, have serviceable players that can make plays. And I think the Giants did a decent job of that. And before I get into some of these questions or some of these statements, if they're overreactions or not, I did want to talk about that. The defensive side of the ball wasn't dealing with many injuries. We know we got Blake Martinez out. Blake Martinez is going to be out for the year. That's a given, right? But at the end of the day, that defense didn't show up. I mean, to allow the Cowboys to score 44 points, 6 of those were on a pick 6 by Glennon. So, we could chop that up to the offense as well. But one of those turnovers was like right when they were in scoring position, and the Cowboys were not playing when they got into the red zone. I don't got the red zone statistics right in front of me, but I know they capitalized when they were in the red zone. They had the 2 turnovers, but they were close there. So if you look at them capitalizing on those 2 possessions, man, you're looking at maybe 50 points put up on this defense, somewhere around 45 to 50 points. To me, that's very, very unacceptable. What's up, Dan Big Blue? How you doing, man? Giants Nation is in the building one time. To me, that's just unacceptable. This with all the injuries and with everything that happened in this game, I think the key word that I'm going to focus on today is adversity. How do you deal with adversity and trucking your way through the turmoil? I mean, that's where you get to find like the strength of a player and a team and who will be the backbone of this team. And looking at this defense, man, you really couldn't find anybody that was going to make any plays all day long. Our rookie, Azeez Ojulari, seems to be one of the guys who's been making some plays this year, but there's not a consistent factor going on with him. And that goes for this defense. And I talked about this a lot about last year. I keep hammering this point on podcasts. The Giants defense going into 2021 is overrated. People thought that because of last year, this defense being ranked 9th, that we were going to come in and make 1 or 2 signings and everybody was going to play to the caliber that they played to last season, and we were going to raise the expectations of this defense. You can't forget the quarterbacks we went up against last year, man. Mitchell Trubisky, Ben Roethlisberger, Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, Alex Smith. The list goes on and on with average quarterback play, and the better quarterbacks that we faced outside of Russell Wilson pretty much torched us. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. These dudes were putting up great numbers on us, man. So when you're facing these other quarterbacks that really aren't high caliber, the defense is going to look a little bit overrated. And you got to dig deeper sometimes in the stats. I mean, stats only show one thing. A lot of times when NFL.com and some of these other outlets are ranking defenses, they're really just looking at yards allowed and points allowed. So, so many different factors can go different into a game that could cause a defense to look good. I like to just use my eyes. When I used my eyes last year, our defense looked like a middle-of-the-road defense, pretty much middle of the pack. I mean, I wouldn't call us a top 10 defense. This year, I did not expect the defense to regress the way that they did. I did think that the signing of Adoree Jackson was going to boost this defense, but the edge rusher position, definitely something that the Giants didn't address. And I don't know why they didn't address it. Same goes for the offensive line. Football is won in the trenches, especially with the New York Giants. I'm an OG in this game. I'm 38, man. I've been watching Giants football since the early 90s with a close eye. I've been watching Giants football since probably 1987, 1988. And when we talk about Giants football, it's smash mouth football. It's why I've been hammering the point about the Giants needing a second running back who is that smash mouth style. Now, I will talk about the Saquon injury a little bit. The Saquon injury is the definition of keeping your head on a swivel. The ball goes over your head, And Saquon Barkley is running this way, looking this way, not looking where his feet are going at the end of a play. And I've seen him do this where he kind of laxes up a little bit, relaxes a little bit, and you're not looking where your feet are going. And turning ankles happens all the time. I used to play basketball too, and man, turning your ankles happens so much. I used to skateboard as well too. I still skateboard. And turning your ankles can happen in any given moment. So that's not a thing to look at like Saquon as being injury prone, but I do understand now the concern of Giants fans. This is 3 seasons now we've had to deal. 3 out of 4 seasons we've had to deal with Saquon Barkley having an injury. We got to keep it funky now, man. This dude's getting hurt all the time. Saquon is a hell of a playmaker coming out of the backfield. And this one is just a freak accident. But at the end of the day, it's another injury. When I saw it live and I saw the ankle swell up the way it did, I know a lot of people were saying broken ankle, broken ankle. For one, I saw the way he turned it. Most people don't break their ankle like that. If you look at the RG3, the inside fold, a lot of people break ankles like that. But when I saw that roll, I was kind of like, okay, this isn't a broken ankle. And the swelling kind of showed that it was a sprained ankle. Sprained ankles, they swell up like that immediately. You can ask the Beard. One time we were trying to do a 5 or 6 stair set skateboarding. And I came down on my ankle, folded it, and immediately that thing swelled up like a grapefruit. They had to push me home on my skateboard. And, today I don't want to make no excuses for the Giants. We're definitely finding out that lack of depth is a big problem on this team. Some people were laughing at that early on. Just as recent as a couple weeks ago, people were laughing at that take that I was saying about we need another running back. You saw it. And even with the big run that Booker had in this game, he still was only averaging 2.6 yards per carry. That's kind of what people say about Saquon when they take away the big runs. They're like, oh, take away the big run against Washington, he's only averaging 2 point whatever. Booker came into this game averaging 2.7 yards per carry, and at the end of the day, he averaged 2.6. Respect to Booker for some tough-nosed running, especially around that goal line. You see his helmet coming off. He could have been another guy who's concussed. You never know. He's probably just a tougher kid than Daniel Jones is. Some people are just built differently up top. Their minds can handle those big hits. I know for me, I wasn't one of those people that was getting hurt a lot when I played ball, but I knew people that, one hit, they was hurt. I see Swamp Picker right now in the chat talking about Joe Burrow. It's a great example. I saw Joe Burrow take that hit. I was like, there is no way this kid comes back in the game. And he came back in the game, and he did everything he had to do to get his team back in the game. They should have really won the game. I mean, outside of missed field goals, Joe Burrow's probably looking at 4-1, I believe. I believe the Bengals went to that game 3-1 and now 3-2. So that's a good point right there. I'm going to definitely be trying to keep my eye on the chat today a little bit more. We kind of missed it a little bit last stream. This thing it just be moving so fast, and while I'm doing all the graphics and all that. And shout out to the homie Miz one time in the building. Giants Nation is in the building. And he does say Jones is a gamer. He will be fine, and I think he will be fine. So let's get to these overreactions. I wanted to start with more of a positive note because there's only one positive note in this game, and I think everybody knows what it is. It's Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney had a really, really good game here with the 10 receptions, 189 receiving yards. He broke Odell Beckham Jr.'s Giants rookie record for receiving yards in a game. He's coming off another hot game where against the Saints last week in the W, he had 6 receptions for 78 yards. So let's get to this first one. Where's that? Right here. Okay, and this is the one I've been seeing going around a lot on Twitter, and I like the comparison. I think it's a pretty good comparison. Kadarius Toney is the next Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I think there's 2 ways we could look at this one. One way you could look at it is the style of player, shifty, fast, can catch the ball quickly and make quick decisions. We saw a bunch of that with Kadarius Toney in this game. I mean, he's catching the ball where a lot of guys take time to catch and then tuck the ball and then get going. Kadarius Toney seems to be a guy who's making the move as he's catching the ball. And I know in the NFL, a lot of people be like, oh, you got to bring that one in, catch the ball when a wide receiver drops the ball. But you got to understand things are moving very, very, very fast in the NFL. And if you take your time doing things, you are liable to get your head knocked off. So love what I'm seeing out of Kadarius Toney, but I wanted to bring up a couple of numbers here. To compare him on the field to Odell Beckham Jr. after 2 games, to me, is ludicrous. So for me, I'm going to take the overreaction on this. So for those of y'all in the chat that don't know, on Giant Overreaction here, what we do is if you agree that this is an overreaction, you drop an O in the chat. If you don't think it's an overreaction, you drop a U in the chat. If you think it's, a little bit of both, you could take the push. We'll do the hand emoji for the push in the chat. So for me, I'm going to take the O. I think that this is definitely an overreaction. I'm going to get into this. Now, Kadarius Toney is just coming off of one big game, and it was a big, big game. This is not to take away anything from Kadarius Toney. I think he's got a lot of football left to play. Obviously, as a rookie in this league, we're talking about maybe 3 games. He's really been effective and been a piece in this offense. But let's talk about OBJ real quick. Y'all know I like talking about OBJ. Right outside that frame over my left shoulder is a signed OBJ jersey. Shout out to the homie Nick DeWitt one time, who blessed me with that when I told him I didn't have any signed Giants apparel, man. I definitely appreciate that. So far, I'm seeing a lot of O's. I got one U from Bark Nasty. Shout out to homie Bark Nasty in the building, always keeping it real one time. Word says Kadarius Toney is his own man. I love that right there. I mean, that's really what it is, because we all are individuals, and we're going to get to that a little bit later when we talk about some other hot topics and hot takes we were talking about. But with Odell Beckham Jr., man, Odell Beckham Jr. as a rookie averaged 108.8 yards per game in the rookie season. 12 games. He had 35 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons. 12 in the first season, 13 in the second season, 10 in the third season. He had 4,122 yards in his first 3 seasons in the NFL. 288 receptions in his first 3 seasons in the NFL, man. OBJ is the fastest wide receiver to ever get to 5,000 yards. It took him 54 games. The person who was right next to him on that list was Julio Jones, who it took 56 games. Very close to him. Odell Beckham Jr. is also the fastest player to 300 catches. So as far as the play on the field, I think it's, we got to pump the brakes, man. Kadarius Toney has a lot more to prove before he can be an Odell Beckham Jr. type player. Kadarius Toney, in this fantastic game he had, I love this game, 10 receptions, 189 yards, where he was ejected in the game for swinging at a player late in the fourth quarter. He still had no touchdowns. And I understand for 3/4 of this game, he has Mike Glennon thrown to him. But I just think that that's not an excuse in the NFL. And statistically, Kadarius Toney's got a long way to go before he catches up to Odell Beckham. Now, let's talk about the other thing that people are comparing him to. I saw something that rubbed me the wrong way on Twitter last night. I ain't even gonna front. And it's from a homie, respect to the homie one time. But he says something like, we're expecting this guy to be like an American role model, and he's a rapper. And to me, that was a slight jab at Kadarius Toney. I don't know how old Kadarius Toney is, right? But he's a very, very, very young man. I'm 38 years old, y'all. I didn't become a real man, until I was probably 30 years old. Through my 20s, I was doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I was out partying, drinking. I'm out there doing the most, okay, in my 20s, because I wanted to live life. And you talking about a guy who was on the opposite end of the financial spectrum that these NFL players are at. So for me, when people start to get in trouble on the field or off the field, I look to give them a little bit of a pass, especially when they're this young. Kadarius Toney came out today, and he apologized about his actions on the field. But you got to understand the platform that these guys are on. We sit back and we watch football from our couches, and we watch 22 men go out on the field and give all they got in the most physical sport known to man right now, okay? So when emotions get involved, I understand it. I'm one that was always on Odell Beckham Jr.'s side when he would go to the sidelines and have these emotional outbursts. And I'm gonna go over almost every one of them here in a second. I jotted down some notes about the Odell Beckham Jr. timeline to compare it. But we got to give people multiple chances. I mean, even with the Mike Vick situation, Mike Vick was the spokesman for the NFL draft the year that he got caught fighting dogs. And I know what that's all about, because I grew up around that environment, okay? I grew up in the DMV area. I grew up mostly in Maryland. I live in D.C. now. And in the black culture, dog fighting is a thing. Let's just keep it funky. That is a thing. People come up fighting dogs, okay? I almost want to compare it to how in American white culture, people go hunting in a way, right? Like, people just go out and shoot animals for fun. okay, for pleasure, okay? You can disagree with either one that you want. I don't agree with either one of them. I think that it's completely wrong to do either one of those things. I'm not a dude who's going to be out here with my rifle hunting deer. It ain't my swag, okay? I grew up with my homie who's a major Giants fan, was also an animal lover back in the day, and I'll never forget a life lesson that he taught me when we were about 9 years old. And for me, you know, when Vic got caught up, I was looking at that like, wow, this might be the end of his career, man, you know, and salute to Andy Reid for giving him a second chance. Last night, I was looking at the documentary before I passed out, the Malice in the Palace documentary. And Ron Artest is another guy who was very misunderstood in the NBA. And he got a lot of second chances. We can't dismiss mental health. There's so many different things that people deal with in their life, from adversity all the way to mental health, that make people the way that they are, okay? I don't know where Kadarius Toney is from, but I know a lot of people where I'm from. In D.C., Kadarius Toney reminds me of a lot of the youngins that I try to mentor in D.C. And in D.C. right now, we're dealing with a lot of gun violence. And this isn't just because people want to just pick up guns and go out there and shoot people, y'all. They are a product of their environment. A lot of people in D.C., youth especially, are walking around here toting guns. So a lot of people get molded into that. They get influenced by that. And a lot of youngins are walking around with guns in D.C. now. And in return, a lot of young people are losing their lives. One of my good homies, my homie Khan, lost his 16-year-old son just a couple of months ago to gun violence. I was talking with him about setting up the podcast with him that he wanted to do with his son to influence people to stay off of the streets. It was a fatherly son kind of vibe, you know? And he ended up losing his son recently after that to gun violence, literally a couple blocks from my house, y'all, right in Petworth. I live on North Capitol in D.C. in the Fort Todd and Split Petworth area, and this happened right in Petworth. So when you judging these players, because my whole thing about today is going to be about how our judgment on people, okay? When you judge these players, just understand, like, they probably didn't come up like you, and that's why they are where they are, and that's why we are where we are. And you got to understand that. So with Kadarius Toney, we know about Florida. Don't it give you Sean Taylor vibes on the field a little bit? Y'all remember when Sean Taylor was in the Pro Bowl that one time and that punter got the ball or something like that? He was running to the side, and Sean Taylor smacked him and laid him out. Some people might be like, man, yo, what are you doing, bro? This the Pro Bowl. You're supposed to be playing light. But where Sean Taylor come from, you got to go 100 miles per hour every day of your life, or you might not be living no more. So we got to take everything into account when we're talking about players, especially young people. I know we got a lot of young people in the chat today, right? But you also, if you're a grown man, you really got to look at younger men and give them a bit of a pass to make their mistakes to get to the point where you are in your life. I was always one trying to cop for Odell Beckham. You know, when I saw Odell Beckham in the hotel in France, I thought that was silly. I was like, man, how you get caught up like that doing that? You being real loose right now, which a lot of youngins do. When Odell Beckham went and did the thing with Lil Wayne and Josina Anderson, did the interview, threw Eli under the bus, the timing of that was not right. And throwing Eli under the bus at that time in his career was not right either. You know, definitely another mistake on Odell Beckham's career. But let's go over some of these. Let's start from the beginning with Odell Beckham so we could try to compare it to Kadarius Toney just a little bit here, okay? So the first time Odell Beckham put the world on notice about himself was in October of 2014. And don't forget, October 2014 is when Victor Cruz tore the knee or whatever, patella injury that he had. And Odell Beckham now is forced to go out there on the field with the likes of what was my man's Ruben Randall, okay, as the number 2 wide receiver. No disrespect to Ruben Randall, and no disrespect to any Giants player. I root for all Giants players, but I looked at that wide receiver core, especially not knowing who Odell Beckham was, like we are about to be cooked without Victor Cruz here. And in October of 2014, Odell Beckham had a Week 5 touchdown, and we saw him doing the whip and doing the nay-nay. And he literally put the whole world on notice with these dances. Everybody wanted to be Odell Beckham. He had the blonde hair, the fade on the side. You start seeing that be when I play NBA 2K in around those times, 2000 and like from that time to about 2018, 2019, you saw that haircut on people who didn't even have that haircut. Everybody was rocking that haircut. And Odell Beckham put the world on notice with his play on the field. And October feels kind of like this October, right? We're in October right now. What are we at? October 11th today, okay? 5 weeks into the season, Odell Beckham puts on notice, and we're saying the same kind of things we're saying about Kadarius Toney. We got a guy. And shout out to Bubs one time in the chat. He says, Ruben Randall wasn't it, bro. Definitely agree with that. Yep. And, you know, October's when we got Odell Beckham. October's kind of when we got Kadarius Toney, because last week we got a good taste of, Kadarius Toney, knowing he can make some plays. And now we're looking to see, is this behavior thing going to be a problem? But for me, this is not a player problem. This is an organization problem. Immediately, you have to put people in position that are going to help these players out with their character in a way and try to develop them into men, which is why I am a mentor today. Because when I was a youngin' coming up in the DC scene and I was a rapper and doing production and doing all that stuff, there was a lot of steps that I didn't skip, man. I had to go right through these hurdles and fall on my face, man. And the beard will tell you all about it, man. We made the same mistakes multiple times. So I try to mentor people in the hip hop game, at least, or in the music business, to skip those kind of mistakes. It's up to them to listen to me, but I'm gonna do my best to show them with examples and metaphors to let them know that, bro, this ain't the right path. So to me, it's a damage control issue. The Giants got to jump on this right now, nip it in the bud. And honestly, I didn't really like the way that Joe Judge carried it. And I know frustrations got into Joe Judge. I know frustration was there. You know, he screamed at Toney, get to the locker room, get back in the effing locker room and all that, and tried to make an example of him standing out on the field. But then he patted Will Hernandez on the back like, good job. What about Kyle Rudolph, who's a seasoned veteran, been in this league for over 10 years, who literally is the reason why that play got out of hand? Runs into the play. Go back, look at the replay, and keep your eyes on Kyle Rudolph. Just runs into the play with the helmet, lowers his helmet, hits somebody, and then walks back, turns his back to it, and walks back to the sideline. What about Evan Ingram, who's been in this league since, what is that, like 2016 or something? I've been in the league for at least 5 years now. Starts the pushing and all that. Kadarius Toney gets in a fight. 3 Cowboys jump on Kadarius Toney and got him at the bottom of what looks like a fumble pile. And Evan Ingram is there just backing up, right? So to me, when you get into these situations, I can understand why people don't react like the way we think they should react, because we're watching it from TV and we're not in the mix. My last fight that I got into was probably about like I'd say about 2 years ago now. And it was after one of my homies' album release party. Somebody was saying something crazy to my girl, and then he tried to swing on me. When you in the fight, you're not thinking like logically, oh, I need to make these right decisions and this right decision. You're literally acting off human instinct, you know? So you got to give these guys a pass. Now, Odell Beckham goes a couple of months there, and by December, we're talking a couple months later, he's in a fight with Josh Norman. Right then and there, we know Odell Beckham has a couple of issues as far as his passion getting out of control and him losing control of his behavior, okay? You can tell that the Giants addressed it because he almost goes about a whole year before he throws a tantrum on the sideline and kicked the net and got hit in the face. Now, that was instant karma. I always thought that one was really funny. Shout out to RB Brooklyn one time in the building with the super chat for $19.99, brother. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you just being here, chopping it up with us, man, more importantly. He says, I personally don't like how Judge reacted with Toney when he threw a punch on the field. I say pull him to the side, in the hood, that don't rock. And in Dominican Republic, we fight roosters. Brooklyn in the building. Brooklyn is definitely in the building one time, yo. RB Brooklyn, I definitely appreciate that super chat. Appreciate you being here one time for sure. You make some good points, man. Like, yo, there is a reason why they fight roosters in Dominican Republic. I'm from Haiti. My folks are from Haiti, bro. I completely understand where you're going with that, okay? We got to stop acting like everybody comes from the same walk of life. Some of these players got to the NFL by being a bad guy their entire life. And sometimes on a team, you need a bad guy. And we're going to get to that too, because I got a couple more statements here from Twitter we're going to pull up here. I don't want to keep y'all here too long. We're already 30 minutes in on the first one. And I'm going to get to this super chat here real quick too. We're going to try to fly through these. Shout out to Kithinji Kinoti with the $5 super chat, brother. I appreciate you being here. He says, Judge better use this as a learning experience and not kill the young guy's confidence. We got to give young people grace. That's 100% true, and that's the point that I'm hammering on right here one time. Shout out to you one time in the building too, fam. So, yeah, Beckham goes a year. And then 2016, he has the thing with Xavier Rhodes, the taunting thing and all that. He proposes to the net in 2016, but let's not forget that was one of Odell Beckham's biggest games. That might be his best game he's ever had as a Giant. 222 receiving yards, and it was a win over the Ravens. That was the Deuces game where he, caught that slant, went to the house with it. Now, for me, I almost want to take the push on this. Y'all tell me what y'all think, because this is a two-part question in the chat. As far as the overreaction goes, I want to know if y'all think this is an overreaction about the character flaws of Kadarius Toney, and maybe if it was an overreaction the whole time about Odell Beckham's character flaws, because not a lot of players in that locker room didn't like Odell Beckham. A lot of players had a lot of love for Odell Beckham. And I know a lot of people want to point to his play with the Cleveland Browns, but that seems to be a quarterback issue over there. And Odell Beckham is finding out now that the grass is not always greener on the other side. Baker Mayfield is struggling. I know he's dealing with an injury. Got to give him the benefit of the doubt there. But it's not working with him and Odell Beckham Jr. I saw that Keyshawn Johnson was talking about it today with Max Kellerman. Keyshawn said that he talked to somebody that's in the Browns organization, and they told him that a talking point that's going on around the organization right now is how Baker's not supposed to really be targeting Odell Beckham as if he needs to implement him in the offense. So that's something to think about. And I see Mike K here. It's a good one here to bring up, too. Odell can't channel his emotions. Toney was just in a bad situation. I think that's why I got to take the push on this, is because this is like 3 games now of Kadarius Toney we've seen, and we got one issue. It happened in October. Odell Beckham wasn't on the field for 4 weeks, and in his first game, pretty much, we saw Odell Beckham put the league on notice that there might be some behavioral issues. I disagree with you saying that Odell can't channel his emotions, because I think that anybody that played football knows you got to channel your emotions to actually make plays on the field, especially when you got 11 guys trying to tackle you. I'll address this one real quick, too, from the homie Miz one time. I'm not seeing it popping up. Here we go, right here. Odell has declined Awthentik. I know you love him, but he ain't that Odell anymore. Listen, we're comparing him to him, and to me, that's wild. Like, it's just like people saying Saquon Barkley isn't Saquon Barkley anymore before this ankle injury happened. We can't forget the player is the player who put himself on notice, okay? That is the person. That he's not playing well has nothing to do with him not being himself. Can you say the play has declined? Of course you can. Injuries playing a part on it? Of course. But right now, go back and look at that Browns game just from Sunday and look how many throws Baker Mayfield missed to Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham going across the field wide open, 7 yards on a post, completely doesn't even see him, throws it to the other sideline. I mean, I just think that with the Browns, it's 2 things. It's identity, and it's also Baker Mayfield is a problem. Those comments that Baker Mayfield had about Daniel Jones being drafted number 6, they look crazy right now because Baker Mayfield's not playing well. But, just to kind of sum this one up, right? For me, it was a series of events with Odell Beckham, and right now we got one with Kadarius Toney. I think it's something that we got to keep our eye on, and if I'm in the Giants organization, these guys need mentors. One thing that comes to mind when I think about this is the financial issues that a lot of players have in the NFL and in the NBA. And there was a 30 for 30 documentary back in the day that talked about Andre Rison and Antoine Walker going broke. There's no way that these players should be going broke with the amount of money that they made. Antoine Walker made over $100 million in the NBA, I believe. And there's no way that should happen. And to me, some people don't listen sometimes, and sometimes it is the human being. And you got to make that mistake to understand, how to not make that mistake again. But we got to have damage control, man. That's my main point about the Kadarius Toney thing. We definitely got to have some damage control for these players, and try to steer them in the right direction. I think NFL organizations get a little bit too caught up in just what's happening on the field and trying to, the output on the field. And also it's got to be a thing for off the field. When we think about off the field deeds, we think about what a player is doing in his community. But at the same time, we got to make sure these players, are headed in the right direction as men and in life, So I'll leave that Kadarius Toney one right there. I'm going to take the push on that one. A lot of fans called this one an overreaction in the chat. I could definitely agree with y'all on that too. Yeah, I think that's a button on that. Kadarius Toney seems to be like he's going to be a really good player in this league. Don't like the way Joe Judge handled it. Make an example of your whole team. Honestly, I would have took everybody that was involved in that play and they would have sat the bench for the rest of the game. Might have sent them all back to the locker room. And lastly, I'll get this one from Miz because that's fam right there. Shout out Miz. Y'all make sure to go sub up to Big Miz one time, man. Miz got an awesome channel, passionate Giants fan. no-cut cards, keeps it 100. He says, yo, Authentic Judge better back his players up. Stop the tough guy act now. Tony held his ground. Yeah, that's facts, man. I'm with you on that. The one thing Tony did that was silly was try to punch a player in the mouth like Joe Judge asked. He said, we're going to punch you in the mouth for 60 minutes. But make sure his helmet's off when you punch him in the mouth. That's one thing I say. Like, you look like a fool trying to punch somebody with a helmet on. That's kind of crazy. All right, so we can wrap that one up right there, and let's go to this next one. I got some hot ones. I got some hot ones because I don't know if you were following on Twitter, but there's a lot of back and forth conversation going on Twitter. I still got 40 mentions. I still got to go back and go check on my Twitter one time, but let's get to this next one time. Let me get this graphic up here one time. And I like this one too. This was a really good one. I got to shout her out one time. Let me go find her Twitter one time. Give me a second, y'all. This will take just 1 minute. Where's she at? Okay, here she goes. This is the homie right here. She always supports streams. She always supports me on Twitter, yo. So shout out to Humble Savage with 2 E's, yo. She said today, she talked about this one, and I thought it was a great topic. She said, the Giants should sign former Patriots quarterback Cam Newton. Now, before I address this too much, let me see what y'all think about this one. Give me some O's in the chat if you think that this is an overreaction. Give me some U's in the chat if you don't agree. And give me some hands in the chat. You know that emoji that's like that if you think we should push this one. But I don't think we got time for a push on this one. We got about 4 or 5 weeks we're going to be dealing with some injuries. And, yeah, we're not going to have time to push this one. This is something that we got to address right now. All right, so far in the chat, I see my homie Word in the building one time. He says, hell nah. Sounds very adamant about that. 2 words. I'm judging you, brother. I'm judging you. My man Bub says it's an overreaction. NY Chris says it's an overreaction. Miz says, I'm with it. Get him. Shout out Miz again in the building. I'm shouting out Miz all day. I can highlight this one on the stream one time. Shout out to the homie Pest one time in the building. PTA Sports, y'all know what it is. Go subscribe to the homie if you aren't. He says, what do you have to lose? F it. I'm with you on that. What do we have to lose right now? Dan Big Blue says, no Cam. Hit Squad says it's an overreaction. Roman says he'll take the under. I'm with you. I like that, Roman. Take the under on that, right? Word says Boof Pack Newton. I don't even know what that means. He says he's not in his prime anymore. I can agree with you. Cam is not in his prime anymore. Neither is Mike Glennon. Maybe Mike Glennon is in his prime. Who knows? Mr. Mayor says he's not vaccinated, though. That's a good point. Shout out to Mr. Mayor in the building one time. I like that. He's not poisoned. I like that. Yeah, he's not poisoned, says Sarkin. King Tone says, I'm with it. All right. That's a lot of different opinions. Nerd Cage Live. Shout out to the homie Nerd Cage Live in the building one time. He says, better than Glennon. And I'm going to leave that up right now because I think that's my point here. Now, looking at the Giants, man, moving forward, they said something like 8 of the 11 offensive starters from week 1 have been injured and are not in the lineup here in week 5 going into week 6. Now, we know about the issues with the offensive line, which is my one reasoning to hesitate on bringing in a guy like Cam Newton, because what does Cam Newton do well? Cam Newton runs the ball well. I do think that Cam Newton could be an excellent piece for a guy like Kadarius Toney because the Giants are struggling to run the ball. We're going to have to do something here. Booker cannot be the answer moving forward at running back, I don't think. Word says DJ will be out 1 week, 2 weeks tops. I'm not too sure about that, Word. That kind of concussion. Remember with Sterling Shepard, when Sterling Shepard was dealing with the concussions, damn near had him out 5 weeks. It all depends on the severity of the concussion. I'm no doctor. Shout out to my homie Scotty from seasons 1 and 2 on Authentic and the Beard. He might be able to give some better knowledge on this topic at hand here. But for me, I'm no doctor, so I don't know about that. I do know this. Cam Newton is a better option right now than Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon lacks arm strength. We saw it in two throws in this game. The out route on both of his interceptions, you saw it. It was all about arm strength. You saw it on the out route, on the sideline. It might have been a comeback route. I'm not too sure, but it was a short round, 10-yard route. You got to hit your wide receiver right in time, and that's outside the hash marks. You got to show a strong arm on that. And you saw it on the interception deep down the field on a post where C.J. Board is considered wide open in the NFL, and the ball comes up short. I saw some people saying that Trayvon Diggs, shout out to Trayvon Diggs, who played an incredible game, who is maybe revolutionizing the cornerback position right now and playing it like a wide receiver. Most of the time when you're chasing like that, they tell you to follow the wide receiver and look at his eyes. Trayvon Diggs is looking at the wide receiver, but also tracking the ball in the air. But the ball was short. Let's just keep it funky on that. You get that ball out a couple more yards out in front of the wide receiver, we're looking at a big play there. So for me, Cam Newton, I wanted to bring it back to a point about dual threat and running style quarterbacks. And I had some notes on this one. This is a really good one. Now, shout out to one of my homies on Twitter, William Ruffin, who brought this to my attention. And he was saying Daniel Jones is one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. And I strongly disagree with that. Just because a player is fast does not mean that he is athletic. And I want to take a look at some of the most influential dual threat running quarterbacks of the past and some of the ones that are active right now. I'm going to start with my man Steve Mcnair. Rest in peace to Steve Mcnair. Think about the kind of life Steve Mcnair came from. The college, I believe, came from Alcorn State. You know, this dude was a journeyman his whole entire life. Big body. Somebody go look up the weight and height for Steve Mcnair. Had big wheels, could throw the ball, could juke, could truck people, could do it all. And this is a good point right here from Dan Big Blue. He says Vic was athletic. And yes, Vic was maybe the most athletic quarterback we've ever seen in the NFL, to be honest. You know, we got OGs like me know Randall Cunningham was one of the earlier, running style quarterbacks. And Randall Cunningham took some treacherous hits, man. He was getting killed. And don't forget, Randall Cunningham got sacked. He got sacked 60-plus times in one season. Deshaun Watson's another guy I'll put in that ballpark, too, who's kind of a dual-threat quarterback as well. And he also got sacked a ton. He had 50-plus sacks in one season. You got guys like Michael Vick, who to me is at the top of that. Michael Vick is probably the most gifted player I've ever seen in NFL history, right there with Randy Moss. Both very, very athletic players. Some of us were lucky to see Cordell Stewart with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who came in and did a bunch of things. He played wide receiver. He played tight end. He played a little bit of punt return, a little bit of corner, and also played quarterback. Very fast, great reaction time. Now, you want to talk about athletic, Kadarius Toney is athletic. That kid is very athletic. We got Colin Kaepernick, who, outside of his, protesting stuff that he was doing, was a really good dual threat running quarterback. And did some things, I'd say, on the field running the ball. Wasn't the most athletic, if you know what I mean. Very straight runner, kind of reminded me of Daniel Jones. But you know what Colin Kaepernick had for him? He knew when to slide, man. That kid was not trying to truck people all the time. And I definitely liked his play. Yeah, 60 is crazy, Braden. I know, it's ridiculous. I believe that's what it was. I believe it was 64 or something like that. Sacks in one season from Randall Cunningham. I got Donovan McNabb on this list. Very gifted athlete. We know about Lamar Jackson. We know about Russell Wilson, who's one of the smartest running quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is not going to try to truck anybody unless he has to. And you're never going to see him put his head down like Daniel Jones did in that game on Sunday. And I think Daniel Jones just got comfortable with doing that near the goal line, and it was just instinct. It's just reaction. It's like, oh, I'm caught here. What do I do? Do I try to go for the pylon? Can't go for the pylon because Kyle Rudolph missed a block on that play. Do I try to throw the ball? Kyle Rudolph just seemed lost on that play. Wasn't even there for a pass to be thrown to him. I don't know what the play call was. if that play call was a pure boot for Daniel Jones to run, if it's not open, you got to figure out a way to do something to keep yourself out of harm's way. Me and Tanner were talking about this on Twitter a little bit, and I kind of changed my stance a little bit on it because Tanner was saying, Jason Garrett shouldn't have put his quarterback in that kind of a position. But then he also said, I'm not blaming it on Jason Garrett, which to me kind of contradicts itself a little bit. But I do agree with Tanner a little bit that Daniel Jones is not the most athletic quarterback that you want to put in those kind of positions all the time. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to be the I told you so kind of person because I hate those kind of people. I see a bunch of people doing that on Twitter now, Monday morning, playing quarterback, hindsight, being like, I told you this, I told you that, I told you this. Now, look, nobody told us that all our players were going to get hurt, so y'all could just dead that right away. But I did talk about being cautious when running the RPO. Because how did Daniel Jones get hurt last season? Running the RPO. Goes up the middle, looks like a great run. Gets tackled, didn't even look that bad. Comes up, hamstring's looking crazy. Next week, they try to bring him back out a little bit early off the hamstring or whatever it was, hurts the ankle. They try to bring him back early off the ankle. He looks like he can't even run, hobbling out there. Then they have to sit him. So we got to put those things on the coaches. We got to put those things on the GM. We got to put those things on the organization. Daniel Jones is not a pure athletic quarterback. Now, these guys that I'm listing on this list here, and we can't forget about Cam Newton, who won 14 straight games in 2015 and took his team to the Super Bowl. One of the better running quarterbacks of all time. To me, the theme here, and it's kind of funny, most running quarterbacks are African-American quarterbacks. Now, I'm not one to say you can't play a certain position because of your ethnicity, obviously, right? But black dudes are fast. Black dudes are very athletic. There's a reason why you don't see a lot of black cornerbacks in the NFL. There's a reason why you don't see a lot of that you don't see a lot of white running backs in the NFL. And there's a reason why you don't see a lot of white cornerbacks in the NFL, because I just feel like there is something that is built in a person. I don't know about where you're from or whatever it is, but it might be coincidence. I don't know what it is, to be honest. But we know when it comes time for these marathons, a lot of these dudes from Africa are running far and fast for these marathons, okay? We know when it comes to the middle linebacker, a lot of white dudes are taking people's skulls off, right? They're crushing people. So for me, when you look at Daniel Jones, you got to look at everybody else who has came before him and plays at the style that he plays in. To me, the most recent quarterbacks that I can remember that were Caucasian quarterbacks that were running the ball was Tim Tebow and Josh Allen. Look at these guys' bodies, man. When you look at Daniel Jones, does he scream, I'm tough? No. When you look at Josh Allen, he screams, I'm tough. When you look at Eli Manning, he screams, I'm tough. Eli Manning took that hit, took multiple hits in that San Francisco playoff game, came up with his helmet twisted completely to the side, and still kept playing. It's something about certain players that when they get smacked, they get concussions. Some guys get smacked and they get right back up. Somebody in the chat brought that up earlier. Joe Burrow. The man was in the air doing his best impersonation of John Elway, who's another good Caucasian running quarterback. But John Elway knew how to stay out of harm's way, and he wasn't that fast. He knew the limitations to his running ability. He got out of bounds a lot. He wasn't taking a lot of big hits, except when he was 37 years old and everything was on the line and he had to get himself a Super Bowl win. He said, screw this, I'm going to go Willie Beeman. Went up, jumped, flipped to the side, touchdown. I'm sure he had a concussion that day. And kept it going, kept it moving, kept it, his team, put the team on his back and won the game for his team, He was looking like a fidget spinner. Joe Burrow and John Elway were looking like fidget spinners. And you could take it all the way back to guys who, changed the style of quarterback by running, like Frank Tarkington, who was a running style quarterback, had a lot of yards, 9-time Pro Bowl winner, Hall of Famer, definitely changed the quarterback position. But Daniel Jones, 6'5", 220, tall kid, but doesn't strike me as somebody that should be running the ball a lot. Yeah, he's fast, but we can't use that as a thing on the goal line. And this is the crazy thing, man, is if Saquon Barkley is healthy, I don't think Garrett runs that play. So I got to put some of this on Jason Garrett. Let's keep it funky here today. We got to put some of that on Jason Garrett. And I do change my stance on that. I am, as a human being, I'm allowed to change my opinion. I tell people that all the time. I don't got to stick to my opinion. I can change it whenever I want to. No one can change the fact of that. Nobody can tell me what to say. I'm going to do what I want to do and say what I want to say. Now, with Daniel Jones, they got to find a way to keep him out of harm's way. We're working with a terrible offensive line. What are you thinking after you run the ball twice on the goal line, on the 1 yard line, and you don't get it in? On third down, I'm sure the coach said to his defense, y'all watch out for that boot. Watch out for Daniel Jones on the RPO. And sure as shit stinks, they watched out for it, and our quarterback got crushed. That's part of this game. The NFL, I talked to a lot of people today who have never played football in pads with 22 players on the field. I played quarterback in high school, okay? Every time I went out there, there was fear running through my mind. I will keep it funky with you. It was a controlled fear, but there was fear out there because I knew that I could get killed at any given moment. The biggest injury I ever had playing football in high school was I broke my collarbone. I broke it on a handoff. I went to my right side to hand the ball off. Defender tackled me as I was handing the ball off and slammed me on my shoulder. I broke my collarbone. When I got off the field, the person who today, rest in peace, is the reason why I'm a Giants fan, Mr. Johnson, my homie Patrick's dad, you know what he said to me? He was like, shake it off, man. And he grabbed my arm and had me doing whirlwind motions with a broken collarbone, trying to get me to stretch the arm out. Because back in my day, this was in 1998, that's just what we did on the football field. Because we know going to play another team is going to war. Somebody said on my Twitter today, don't compare it to that. And I'm like, you are entitled to have your own opinion about how things should be compared. But trust me, when you play football, it's going to war. When you're about to make a collision with another player and you lower your shoulder, you know things can go really wrong here. Now, I say all that to say, man, a guy like Cam Newton sitting at home right now, begging for another opportunity, it all depends on what the Giants want to do here. Right now, this is looking like a season. I cannot remember a team that was in this much turmoil this early in the season, where it almost looks like we're hopeless. There's no way to salvage this. There's no way to get this team back into a winning fashion. I just don't see it, to be honest. You know, we're 1-4 now, entering week 6, and we're about to hit the toughest stretch of our schedule. This might be a season where you might want to just chalk it up and go put the players out there that you have on the roster and just make it a learning season. Because right now, this roster is not going to be able to win a lot of games. Kenny Galladay's out with the knee injury. He was already dealing with the hamstring stuff. You got Slayton on the bench. You got Shepard on the bench. You got Barkley on the bench. You got Jones on the bench. You got Andrew Thomas on the bench. You got Nick Gates on the bench. You got Shane Lemieux on the bench. Matt Skura on the bench. Dog, I just named 9 people. I don't know if we can get out of this one. Maybe signing Cam Newton is a waste of money. Who knows? It wouldn't cost that much, though. And going up against these teams, I just don't see it. I don't see where the Giants are going to be able to find wins on this schedule. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So for me, this one here is going to have to be a push, I think. Again, I think it's going to have to be a push. But even though I said in the beginning of this segment, it can't be a push because we don't got enough time. You don't want to bring in Cam Newton after this long stretch when we got to face these divisional teams that we think we can win some games against. You know? Shout out to homie Afghan in the building. I see you, fam. I see some new people pulling up. We got 109 in the building right now, man. I appreciate y'all pulling up to just hear Awthentik speak. You know, I had to put that one in third person for y'all because this is just one man's opinion. I'm just keeping it funky with y'all. This is just my opinion Monday after a game like that where all of these players got so hurt, man. And it's very disheartening as a fan. You know, it just reminds me of 2017, you know, and I've talked about 2017 a lot. If I'm not wrong, that Brandon Marshall season where we lost Odell Beckham and we lost Brandon Marshall and we had lost Sterling Shepard and we lost our punt returner / wide receiver, Dwayne Harris as well, all in one game. I mean, it was just ridiculous. You know, you just see injury after injury after injury. In this game on Sunday, when Zeke went down, I was just like, wow, another one. Then Cooper's hobbling. The NFL is a physical game, man. This is not Madden, yo. This is real deal out here, man. These are real human beings going out there and putting their life on the line. So I tell you what, I said I can't take the push on this. I'm not going to take the push. I think the Giants should sign Cam Newton. If they can get him in there for a league minimum, veteran minimum, go out there and sign him. Because, look, Cam Newton is an experienced player who can bring experience to this team for all these young guys that are going to have to do a lot of learning this season because we're going to be taking a lot of L's for the rest of this year. And Miz, I like this. We're gonna end it on this one right here. 100%, man. That fake turf is not helping nobody. I remember the first time I walked on turf, it was at Georgetown University, and we were doing some wide receiver drills out there. I was like, I do not want to get tackled on this. This is not the vibe. And when you get smashed, you got 250 to 300-pound guys smashing you on top of your head like that. That's a recipe for an injury 1,000%. So seems like everybody was kind of split on this one. I love when things can split a room. You know, I think that there's a case to be made for anything that can split a room, you know. Very important there. Let's get to this next one here. I'm trying to think I'm trying to, like, have the dynamic be really good for these questions. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions on here, or 5 statements. And just trying to keep it dynamic. So I'm trying to think about, I'm pacing this one a little bit slower because it's a really sad day for New York Giants football, man. It's a really sad day for New York Giants football, man. Like, that really hurt. I don't know if y'all saw the coach for the Lions, man. He did a speech for his team after the game, man, and his sentiments just scream New York Giants to me. It's just like, these players are going out there, they're giving their all. That's why I hate when people question effort. Anybody questioning effort never played football. You can't go out there and not give full effort. You're gonna get injured. And sometimes when you give full effort, you get injured, and that's just how it is. You know, that's just how it is. That's just how that cookie crumbles, man, and that's just how it is. But let's get to this next one. I'm gonna take the dynamic down just a little bit on this one. This one is about the organization. And we talked about this one a little bit on one of the earlier Giant Overreactions with your boy. If you're not subbed up to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, man. If you're digging what you're hearing here, man, this is all Giants content. And we cover the NFC East with my homie The Beard. It's Authentic in the Beard. Every Monday we do this here. Kind of like a little therapy session for the Giants fans. Myself included. I am not no analyst. Don't put that tag on me. I'm a rapper, producer from the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm a New York Giants fan who just likes to talk my talk about my team. That's about it. But y'all give me the O's if y'all think this is an overreaction. Y'all give me the U's if you're taking the under. And give me the hands if you're taking the push. And I'll give you my thoughts on this one here, man. NY Chris takes the push. Shout out to NY Chris in the building one time. I don't know if it was NY Chris who was talking about the Stussy hoodie I had on a couple weeks back on the Giant Overreaction. But, yeah, that's a Stussy hoodie. It's from, like, 2011 or something like that. So I doubt you'll be able to find it. I remember you was asking about that. I think that was you. It was somebody else from NY, though. Okay, so we're a little bit split on this one. I see some U's. I see some O's in the building. Okay. And I didn't even really think about this one, to be honest. Before I got on air, I really don't have an answer to this one a predetermined answer that I have for this one. I'm going to wing this one. Is it time for the New York Giants to clean house? I will say this. Today, this is how I feel. Coaching-wise, the Giants should clean house. I think we should fire all the coaches, and I think we should do it before October ends. I'm going to keep it funky. When you look at how long the Giants have been struggling here under the tenure of 3 to 4 coaches, it's pretty pitiful. And I took a screenshot yesterday that somebody had posted about the records. Just trying to find this one right now. See if I even took the screenshot. Oh, yeah, here it goes right here. So Zach Rosenblatt tweeted this one out. Shout out to Zach Rosenblatt. Ben McAdoo, in his first 21 games, was 11-10. And don't forget the season before that, which got him the job. I can't remember the record, but he was showing promise as an offensive coordinator for a few years there. Took over for Gilbride, I believe. So he was 11-10 through 21 games. And fans got him out of here quick. Super quick they got him out of here. Tom Coughlin started off 9-12, and they gave him a lot of time. Tom Coughlin ended up being probably one of the best coaches. Yeah, definitely one of the best coaches in New York Giants history, up there with Bill Parcells. Rest in peace to I'm having a brain fart for his name right now. Jim Fossil, who was also a great Giants coach as well too. Pat Shurmur started off 7-14, and we got him out of here. And now Joe Judge is 7-14 in his first 21 games. That's really unacceptable, man. Like, we're talking about after the back-to-back regimes from Ben McAdoo and Pat Shurmur. And I know a lot of people thought it was very interesting when we brought in Joe Judge as the new New York Giants head coach from a Patriot regime that was not, you know how the Patriot coaches do. And really the only coach that we were able to hang our hat on was Brian Flores in Miami, and now that is looking really bad over there. That's looking really bad over there in Miami. They look like a bad football team, okay? Joe Judge was a special teams coach. Let that sink in, man. A dude who preaches mental stamina and discipline has one of the most undisciplined teams in the NFL. That game is way out of reach, man. 7-8 minutes left in the game. That game is way out of reach, okay? I would have just probably ran the rock for the rest of the game. You really shouldn't even be thinking about trying to score touchdowns and get back in that game. Once it becomes that 3-score, it's a wrap in the fourth quarter. And I ain't saying give up. We never quit. Quitting is the worst thing. Tanking is the worst thing a fan could say. That on the highest level of football, we're going to lose games on purpose so we get high draft picks. High draft picks don't even equate to making your team better. Look how many teams struck. I mean, the Browns had the number 1 draft pick for 100 years straight, and it took them probably 25 years to get that thing going. And I've been talking about this lately. You know, you got to also consider building your team by trading draft stock and bringing in proven players. And, you know, as far as cleaning house here, I don't think you got to clean house with the players because the Giants have a lot of great young talent on this team. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but we know if you follow the New York Giants, Carl Banks talked about not having that alpha dog on the team, and we don't. We have a lot of finesse. And every good team needs a dog. I was a player that played with finesse my whole entire life. In high school, I barely got tackled. In practice, I barely got tackled. I swear to you, I avoided the hit as much as I could. I was great at leaning my body and adjusting my body to not get hit, using my mind to not get smacked. And I'll never forget the one time I got smacked in practice. Shout out to my homie Al Glay. I caught a quick slant across the middle. He just surprised me before I could even get my head turned around and straight laid me out. And I was just like, whoa, like you lose your consciousness for a second every time you take a big hit. But I do think we have a lot of good players on this team, but there is no alpha. Even our middle linebacker, Blake Martinez, doesn't come across as a true alpha. Shout out to the homie Roldy in the building one time. That's my guy, man. Chopped it up a lot with him yesterday in the entertainers chat and Tim from Online Big Blue chat. Shout out to all them fellas, man. Great people in the New York Giants community, man. Always keeping it funky. Always keeping it funky. That's why I like Roldy. Always keeps it funky. But this team lacks that guy. You know, you might think Leonard Williams might be one of those guys, but it's hard to enforce that alpha dog when you're in the trenches like that. And we need more guys like that. The Giants are losing games in the trenches. We got all the finesse you could want on a team. Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones. I mean, throws the deep ball with such great touch. I mean, the quarterback, he's so good. I love Daniel Jones. Great quarterback. Defensively, you got guys like Xavier McKinney who show all the signs that he could be a good free safety in this league. Speed, but he ain't no alpha dog. He ain't out there smacking. You know, Steve Atwater was a dog, alpha. Sean Taylor, rest in peace. I damn near lost my mind one time when I saw on a stream. Somebody said something about Sean Taylor, and I damn near lost my mind being a Maryland, D.C. native. I almost lost my mind about it, bro, because I got so much respect for Sean Taylor. Sean Taylor used to just lay people out. You look at Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Ronnie Lott. Man, these people were alphas, man. They were on the field, and their presence was known that you do not go across the middle. It's not a lot of players like that in the NFL no more. And granted, that is because the rules have changed so much, so drastically over the years to protect wide receivers and to protect quarterbacks. But when it comes to the players, you know, I think you got to keep some of these players on this team because when it comes to the skill positions on the New York Giants, I think we have great players in every position, you know. In a 3-4 defense, you need some outside linebackers, though. You need some dogs out there. And we really don't got no dogs. Shout out to Lorenzo Carter. He got a nice interception. And those seems like the kind of plays he can make. But when it comes to just bull rushing, being a dog, he's not that guy, I don't think. At least not at this point in his career. And the last thing I'll say about that before I get to this super chat, sometimes when you are alpha dog, a lot of it got to do with the kind of life you had. You might have came up in a broken home. You might have had some older brothers that was picking on you, or you might have been somebody who dealt with a lot of bullying, and you said, man, I'm not taking this shit no more. You might have been a dude that's from the straight hood. You might have been a dude that's dealing with poverty. You might have been a dude that dealt with something mentally. You might have got clowned. All of those things make dogs. Adversity makes people dogs. Finesse is something else. Sometimes you just got that dog in you and it's God-given, you know? But we don't got those kind of players on this team. We don't got those Reggie Whites. We don't got those James Harrisons who don't give a damn what nobody say about them or their character. We don't got those guys. Everybody on this team is one of these squeaky clean guys. And I think that's what makes a coach like Mike Tomlin such a great coach. He knows how to take these alpha dogs, implement them in his system, give them a little bit of a leash and leadway to be able to not make the critical mistakes that will have them out of this league on the sidelines or at home on the couch, if you know what I'm saying. So let me get to this one super chat I just saw from the homie Lax one time. Let me scroll a little bit. Here we go. Shout out to my homie Lax one time in the building, always in the building. This is my day one right here. Been supporting Awthentik in the beer since maybe season 1. Shout out to you for the super chat, $4.99. You know I appreciate your presence here more than the super chat. It says, cleaning house solves nothing. If we continue firing coaches every 2 years, we will suck for 20 years like the Browns. I agree with you a little bit on this, Lax. I do. You know, I do think that, you know, you can't just keep firing people. That is not the way to solve things. But in this case, you're looking at a team that has been suffering with the losses under 3 straight coaches now. There's people out there that are saying we should bring Pat Shurmur back. They've been saying this as early as week 1 of the 2021 season. And Pat Shurmur's leash was very short, 21 games. He was out of here, I believe, or, you know, just a little bit over that. Maybe it was, no, I think it was 32 games. He got his full 2 seasons. And Patrick Shurmur saved his job by starting Daniel Jones. And I thought that they jumped the gun on Eli just a little bit too early. If you're going to go into that season committing to Eli, saying, hey, he's the guy. They had to pay him $20 million that year. They brought him in, and then 2 games later, they're like, oh, actually, he's not the guy. He's going to sit on the bench. We're going to pay him that money to hold a clipboard. We're going to throw out our quarterback. Nobody had no tape on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones he showed some promise, had some wheels, has a good arm. But I do think we threw him out there to the Wolves a little bit early. I'm really looking forward to seeing this kid Jordan Love finally get on the field when Aaron Rodgers retires, because I think he's going to shock a lot of people, because all he's doing right now is sitting back taking notes. But I do agree with you. Firing people, you know, every 2 years, you're not building any continuity, chemistry, momentum with the team. I get it, man. But when you see a guy who looks like he's losing the team, he comes in, preaches things that are not being implemented clearly. Kadarius Toney is a perfect example of this, man. He's a guy that everybody wanted to see on the field. I was one that was like, you know, just slowly implement him in the offense. When I didn't see Kadarius Toney week 1, I ain't had no problem with it. Week 2, he's out there for a couple snaps. You know, I don't have a big issue with it. I think week 2 was against Washington, if I'm correct. I can't remember. Yeah, week 2 was Washington. Week 3 was week 4 Atlanta. Week 3 Washington. I think it was week 3 actually. But yeah, man, you know, eventually you can't just keep losing either. Something has got to be fixed here. The injuries. Nobody can blame the injuries on his coaching staff, but we're a struggling team before the injuries. We're a struggling team last season, and a lot of people don't seem to think it's the personnel. But I think the one main thing here, when we talk about cleaning house, and maybe it's not cleaning house because maybe it's just cleaning the living room, or maybe it's just cleaning the top floor, right? Dave Gettleman, day 1, the first episode of Awthentik in the Beard, you can go back to it. I say, and I quoted Dave Gettleman, we're going to bring in hog mollies. both my co-hosts at the time said, what are hog mollies? And I had to break down to them what a hog molly actually is. And these are the big boys on the line. They're maulers. They're aggressive. They're alphas. What are we still complaining about today? Offensive line with the New York Giants. We're still complaining, right? Defensively, let's look at this linebacker core. We got a bunch of guys on IR that were supposed to be pieces that we implement into this defense that were also supposed to be alphas. And Dave Gettleman has just been striking out. I hate to say it. He's just been striking out as far as the draft goes, outside of the skill position, which I think, man, it doesn't take a genius to assess the skill position and draft guys that are going to have talent to come into an offense and help an offense. Look, man, I don't even watch college football. All I got to do is go look at the tape and use my eyes. Kadarius Toney, I'm like, that's going to be a guy. I knew it right off the bat. I looked at Odell Beckham's tape. I'm like, that's going to be a guy. Who were some of the other first-round wide receivers that were drafted this year? Rondale Moore. Dude is making plays. You can just look at the tape. He's going to be a guy. Rashard Bateman is going to be a guy. I'm trying to think Jamar Chase. Just look at the tape, man. The tape shows you that he is going to be a guy. It's not hard to assess skill positions because all you got to do is make plays. Show me the guy making the most plays. I want to draft him. Devonta Smith is another guy. It's very easy to spot that he can make plays. Now, will these guys be great NFL wide receivers? A lot of it is circumstantial. Just like the quarterback position. All skill positions are circumstantial. But when you're in the middle in the trenches, a lot of that is not circumstantial. Can you beat the guy who's up next, up in front of you? Can you beat him? It's a strength thing, technique thing, right? Skill positions, every skill position outside the running back relies on the quarterback to get them the ball, which is why when people say Odell Beckham is completely fell off, I'm just like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe from the injuries, yeah. But that guy still has the same hands he had, same skills that he had, cutting in and out of breaks. He might be a step slower. Yeah. Injuries will do that to a player. But there are injuries. There are also players that bounce back from injuries and look sometimes better than they did. Dalvin Cook being one of them. Came back off the injury, looks great. Then he got hurt again. Oh, man, I guess we got to label him as injury prone. I don't know. I don't like to use the word injury prone. I like to use the word the NFL is a tough physical game. Players get hurt, I think cleaning house, it depends what house, Depends what floor. But we can, Dave Gettleman, it starts with Dave Gettleman. And I've been one, he's done some good things and some bad things. But if you're a guy who is supposed to be predicated on the hog molly, show me some hog mollies on the New York Giants. Even Andrew Thomas seems to be a guy of finesse with the New York Giants, but he's a great left tackle. He's one of the players that I know when it comes time to clean house, he can't be that guy. He cannot be a guy that's going to be on the outside looking in that kind of situation. And I'm gonna get to these other ones here too. Let me make sure I'm getting the right one. I'll start with this one from the homie Roldy one time. Roldy, you know what it is, brother. I appreciate you being here, man. Your presence is not only welcome, but it's necessary. For a lot of these younger New York Giants fans, man, like reality. Sometimes truth hurts, man. Truth can hurt, man. And I think this gonna be a lengthy show, man. We gonna chop it up and we gonna talk as much as we can. As long as there's people in the building, we gonna keep chopping it up for real. So, Roldy says here, let me make this a little bit larger so I can see this, man. And I got good eyes, man, but I think I'm getting a little older. These eyes is starting to fail me. Roldy says, Awthentik. It's an organizational issue. We thought McAdoo, Shermer, and now Judge is the issue, and it's the same results. What does this one say? When are we going to take a second as fans, I believe, to realize it starts from Mara and the front office? 1,000%. And, man, I can only speculate what's going on with John Mara and whatnot. But I know, like, if I own something, my hand got to be in the cookie jar a little bit. Maybe don't cut that guy. I like that guy. Let's run that guy Odell Beckham up out of here. It was strange to me that Dave Gettleman came out in a press conference and said we didn't give the guy $90 million to trade him, and then a couple weeks later you traded him. What are we doing here? Are we lying to the fans? Trust is not a thing that Giants fans can have with the organizational issues right now. We cannot have any trust for sure because we've been continuously lied to. Man, I saw these dudes on Twitter 2 weeks ago talking about we helped Or last week, we helped the New York Giants get a win. The organization was listening to us. Man, they not listening to us. You think John Mara is scouring YouTube? You think Dave Gettleman's looking at YouTube talking about, oh, the fans are saying this, let me do this. No, man, they're at practice every day. They're too busy to even look at this stuff. And I think Rody hit this right on the nail, man. Like, it starts from the top, man. Because, yo, as a guy who owns the organization, you better have a good judgment of character if you don't know football. Because the guy that you bring in, Giants fans are starting to see it now with Joe Judge. Every week we got to look at the tape. We got to look at the tape. I'd rather see my coach up there crying on the podium like the Detroit Lions coach was than see my coach come up there and pretty much just dodge questions every press conference. To me, it's not making no sense. And fans are puzzled. Fans are puzzled because we looked at this roster and we thought we had a winning team. But you got to look at them trenches, man. They're not doing a good job at addressing what's happening in the trenches. Can you believe that the New York Giants went through the 2021 draft and did not draft one offensive lineman? You know what I'm saying? Not one offensive lineman was drafted in the 2021 draft, and Miz been screaming at the top of his lungs, the offensive line is the biggest issue with the New York Giants. It's definitely one of them. It's definitely one of the biggest issues for the Giants, and our team didn't address it. Let's go back to a couple years ago when we knew one of the biggest issues with the New York Giants outside of the offensive line was wide receiver weapons for Daniel Jones. And in the first 3 seasons, Dave Gettleman doesn't bring in any wide receiver talent. He literally drafted Darius Slayton in the 5th round, and that was it. And we got lucky that Darius Slayton was showing up in his first, his rookie season as a New York Giant and was able to help this team put some yards on the board. But didn't help us with touchdowns. Everybody's screaming about Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham had 3 touchdowns last year in 7 games, 6 full games that he played in, where all the New York Giants wide receivers played in almost all the games and didn't have more touchdowns than Odell Beckham in 6 games. It's 2 years in a row now that's happened. Odell Beckham in 2019 only had 3 touchdowns, I believe, 2 and 1,000 yards. We didn't have a 1,000-yard wide receiver in 2019 or a guy with more than 3 touchdowns. So what are we doing here? As a fan, I can look at Dave Gettleman in this offense and see it's very clear. Like, okay, we needed weapons last season. Go back and look at my tweet. Search at Awthentik Kenny Golladay. I said it in January when football was still going on. I might have said it even the year before that we needed help. I wanted to bring in Devonta Smith as wide receiver talent. We got snaked by the Eagles and the Cowboys as well. And taking Kadarius Toney and getting the Bears' first-round pick, I'm totally good with that now. I think that was the right way to operate in the first round of the draft. But when you look at the other rounds that happened in the draft, you got to find a way, man. Bring in some talent to win the trenches. Look at how the Cowboys dominated the Giants yesterday. I saw a chart that showed all the running plays. They ran zone right so many times on that left side of the Giants defense, and we couldn't stop it all day long. Even our cornerbacks getting pushed. It's ridiculous. So as far as what Roldy's saying here, man, 1,000% I agree with you on this one. 1,000%. And I want to go to your other one that might piggyback off of this. I appreciate you, Roldy, man. I definitely do, man. Appreciate the $20 super chat, man. But you already know what it is. I appreciate you just being in the building one time. That's what's more important for me. He says, yes, we have some talent, and sometimes as Giants fans, we overvalue a player when we should. He's talking about the talent, I guess. Take a look at the 18 and 19 draft picks. What have they done, and are they still on this team? Giants, we are smarter than that. And I think Roldy's talking about the 18, 19 draft picks in the recent history from Dave Gettleman. Oh, my God. And I guess we got to pull it up. That's worth it. Let's start with 2021. Y'all know we had Kadarius Toney in the first round. They addressed cornerback again, which I really did not understand. But the Giants went out there in round 2, and we got Azeez Ojulari, who looks like a good pick. I like the linebacker, but it's redundant. We drafted all linebackers in 2020, and we'll get to that one too. You had Aaron Robinson, who has been on IR for the whole season at cornerback. He is a promising young player, but I don't understand the signing of Adoree Jackson and then all the drafting of all those cornerbacks we had from the Julian Love draft, and now yet again you get another cornerback. Okay, We drafted Ellerson Smith, who seems to be a guy who's not an alpha when you look at his tape, but I don't know. He's been on IR the whole year. Another guy who's hurt. And then we drafted in the 6th round Gary Brightwell. So Gary Brightwell, they're not even giving him touches. I saw somebody in the comment section say that Gary Brightwell should get some more touches on his team, and I 100% agree with that. You know, just to see what he got. Booker's been averaging 2.6 yards the whole season. It's just not working out. So for me, when you look at that draft, limited it may be, yeah, you still got to find a way to bring in people for the trenches, and we're just missing on players constantly. Love Kadarius Toney, like what I'm seeing out of Azeez Ojulari so far. I mean, Azeez had some plays where he was knocking people on their butt in that game. He's a physical. He might be an alpha for real. You know, we'll find out. But let's go back to 2020. Let me just look up the quickest list of this. Okay, here you go. So in 2020, we started in the 1st round. We got Andrew Thomas, which a lot of people were down on Andrew Thomas in the beginning, especially coming out of preseason, calling my man a bust and all kind of crazy nonsense. And he looks to be a really good player. Was hurt in this game, which is unfortunate. But he's going to be a good player nonetheless. Xavier McKinney's looking like a miss. Definitely not the alpha. At safety, man, I like those guys that hit, man. I like those Sean Taylor vibes. You know, I like those guys that are imposing their will on players. If you look at Teron Johnson with the Buffalo Bills, I love what they're doing with him. They can put him anywhere on the field. And I think Jabril Peppers is kind of one of those guys, but the lack of speed with Jabril Peppers has been hurting him. Then you look at the 3rd round, we had Matt Pert. They have no confidence in Matt Pert. I don't know what to say about that. They have no confidence in Matt Pert. He played in this game, didn't look great. The offensive line without Andrew Thomas looked terrible in this game. And I saw a lot of people hyping up the offensive line because of one game that we got it together. And I think that's just because Daniel had a little bit of confidence on his left side. When they moved Nate Solder to the left, like one injury should not make your offensive line take this many steps back. We know that. Darnay Holmes. Darnay Holmes has been non-existent this year. They won't even play that guy. Another slot-style cornerback who really is not going to be a guy who's going to impose his will in the tackling game. And we know the Giants have big problems with tackling. Shane Lemieux, injured. Cam Brown, IR. Carter Coughlin, I don't even know. They won't even play him. TJ Brunson, no clue. Chris Williamson, no clue. Tay Crowder, just not the guy. You know, Mr. Irrelevant. Last pick of that draft. He can do some things, but he's the kind of player that could be a depth piece and needs supporting pieces around him. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And yeah, that's probably the 19 or 18 that Roldy was talking about right there. So we're missing. We're missing in the draft, man. Like a lot we are missing in this draft. And I think it's important to have somebody at the helmet that's going to assess this properly, man. That'll be a person that'll bring in what they say they're going to bring in. To me, let's take away all the skill positions and let's just focus in on the defensive line and the offensive line. Dave Gettleman has brought in Dex, traded for Leo, overpaid him, gave him a big bag. Too big of a bag, probably. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in the narrative of like what is like expected for a position to be paid. It's just like when they're talking about Daniel Jones getting his money. I don't care what Daniel Jones does in this finishing out the 2021 season in 22. There's no way you get that guy $40 to $50 million. I'm sorry. It's just no way. He has not proven that he is that guy. Granted, he had his best stretch in these first 4 games here. But you need a guy who's going to go out there and win games. And Daniel Jones is doing everything he can. The one thing I loved about Daniel Jones on that play getting hurt, he showed you he ain't scared. Xavier McKinney shows me he's a little bit scared when it comes time to tackle. You know, he don't want to throw his body out there and lay it all on the line because he probably dealt with the, you know, he mentally, he's probably dealing with that injury from last season that kept him out 10 to 12 games, whatever that was. He don't want that no more. So he's looking at his body. James Bradbury never been a fast kind of corner. And he's not stepping up playing physical either right now. Logan Ryan, I got no beef. Especially as an older player in this league. Logan Ryan, he's going up there trying to put his helmet on somebody. Adoree Jackson on the other side, no will being imposed there. Not a guy that if I'm the runner, I'm not looking at Adoree Jackson like, oh man, he might lay a big hit on me. No, I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking I'm about to run this dude over. Even James Bradbury. If I'm the running back, if I'm Ezekiel Elliott, I'm like, I'm running you over. There's not a player on the Giants that Ezekiel Elliott was probably looking at like, I won't run you over, outside of the two guys in the interior of our defense. Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Outside of that, and most of the time as a running back, those guys are being blocked, so you don't even got to worry about that. You know, so for me, it's all about, I know Banks was talking about alphas in the backfield. To me, it's about the alphas in the trenches. Like, you got to find a way, bro. Like, Dave Gettleman got to bring in talent on the offensive line and the defensive line. Right now, we got no alpha. No alpha on the offensive line. And we're dealing with guys like Nate Solder having to play. Matt Perk, they told us he wasn't ready. He out there. Signing guys a week before the season starts like Ben Bredeson, Matt Skura. These are guys that other teams don't want. So for me, it's very easy to see this. Just like it's easy to scout skill position talent, it's easy to see that Dave Gettleman is not good at scouting in the trenches. We need to bring in somebody. I think it starts right there because I can't tell John Meredith to sell his portion of the team. Can't do that, right? So I got to start with Dave Gettleman. Hernandez is an alpha? I don't know. Looked like it in 2018, Chris. I'll give you that. I will give you that, Chris. Definitely looked like it in 2018. But right now, not looking like it. Not looking like it. You know, nobody's looking at Hernandez pulling, going, oh, my God, I got to get out the way. Nah, I don't think so. You know, maybe he's close to an alpha, maybe. And when you are when you're an alpha surrounded by a bunch of non-alphas, it might make you look like that too. So I'm putting a lot of this. My man said Hernandez just loves to fight. I feel you on that. That's what's up. Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's like I do think you gotta do a bit of cleaning up the house, a little bit of spring cleaning here, and I do think it starts with Dave Gettleman, and then next in line, I think it's Joe Judge. Man, I mean, teams are adjusting to what Patrick Graham did last season. That defense looks bad. They said Washington football team had the worst defense in the NFL. I don't know, man. I'm going to be definitely eyes open to see where we rank now. Washington was coming in at 32 to enter week 4 or week 5. And I'm very curious to see where the Giants rank now because, man, the Cowboys could have put up 50 on us. It looked like they kind of took their foot off the gas there a little bit at the end. But, yeah, I don't think this is an overreaction. For fans that want them to clean house, yeah, go ahead and do that, man, and stick to your word on that until further notice, until they prove to us they can do something different. I mean, you're looking at one game where the Giants showed discipline against the New Orleans Saints, 3 penalties in that game. I don't know how many penalties were in this game against the Giants, but I might have them stats right there. 8 penalties in this game. So that's now 11 against Washington. I think it was 8 against the Broncos. It was 9 against the Falcons, 8 against the Cowboys here, and 1 clean game against the Saints. And this Cowboys one looked like, it reminds me of like sometimes when I was on teams back in the day when we were getting our ass kicked so bad that we wanted to fight. And to me, that shows your team has no mental toughness at all. The Cowboys only punted 1 time in this game. That is ridiculous. They had the 1 fumble. They had the 1 interception. Dominated the time of possession. 515 total yards in this game allowed by the Cowboys. That is just brutal right there. That is brutal. And shout out to Rod Jealous one time in the chat. I believe that's how you say that, or Gellis. He says, we all knew Leonard was going to get slack after getting overpaid. Gettleman's a disaster. Yeah, we knew that. We knew that. We definitely knew that. And sometimes, as a player, if you're really team invested, I mean, like this me speaking from a perspective of a common man, I don't make millions of dollars, right? I haven't been making millions of dollars for years like a guy like Leonard Williams, right? But like Colin Cowherd has been talking about Tom Brady's formula for a couple of episodes now. Tom Brady taking pay cuts every year. He's only making up 5% of the Tampa Bay Bucks cap this year. like, when are some people going to sacrifice something for the team is what I want to know. Because negotiations happen there. And I don't know how much exactly they paid Leonard Williams. I know it was right around $20 million. And when you're negotiating, if you really want to be on this team, what's the difference between $12 million and, $20 million? What's the difference? Like, if you really are a New York Giant and invested in it, what's the difference? I appreciate that, Waterfly. Waterfly says I'm going to be making millions soon. I appreciate that, fam. But it's never about the bread with me, man. It's never really about the bread with me, man. And even with just building content, it's really like it don't really matter how many people in the building. As long as I got some people, some like-minded folks, I'm a little worried to see this channel grow. Because me and the Beard, we definitely pride ourselves on top-notch quality. That's what we do. And I think top-notch quality will breed people to come into these streams and check this out. But it's never really about like having 1 million subs or like a chat with 1,000 people in it. It's never really about that, man. My homie Ethan used to say every time we would get on stage, 2 or 2 million. And what that meant is if there's 2 in the crowd, you still do what you do. If it's 2 million in the crowd, you still do what you do. At the end of the day, I just don't want to be surrounded by a toxic community, man. And like the more and more people that get eyes on what you're doing, it can get real toxic, man. I see it on a lot of the larger Giants streams. Them chats be dummy toxic. For me, it's never about the bread, but Waterfly, I definitely appreciate that. That just kind of shows the value that you have and you think about us here at Awthentik and the Beard. So I definitely appreciate that one time. Olivier says, what camera do I use? I use an EOS R by Canon. It's a pretty expensive camera. But you can, a lot of it is about lighting. I always like to show people this, man. Like if you turn off the lights in the studio, things will look a lot different. But really it's about the lights, Aperture 120D, Godox SL60W. The lights do a lot. Definitely do a lot. And I'm looking for this remote for, but it's right here. So like this light does it all. That light does it all. It really does. A good light will help you out with your stream for sure, 100. And I would start with getting a Godox SL60W. And if you want to go with a camera that could give you equivalent quality, you can get the Canon SL3. They run for about $500. Get yourself like a 35 millimeter, something like that. You can get a good look that'll blur out your background and whatnot. But let's get back to some football here. Appreciate everybody on that last topic of Clean House, man. Roldy, Lax, Waterfly, everybody who had their comments on that. Everybody in the chat. I see Mac, the Giants fan, in the building one time. Salute to you. Y'all go sub up to Mac. Ash Money in the building one time. Oh, Ash Money, you already know, bro. Just DM me, man. I got you. I'll help you out with all that. You tell me your budget. We'll get you in the right direction. Get you looking super fly on the stream and whatnot. I just helped out Joel with his stream a little bit too. And Pest, shout out Pest. I know he was in the building earlier. Sunday's in the building. Appreciate you being in the building. She says, preach it. You know what it is. We at the mass right now. Church vibes all day. You know what I'm saying? The gospel is being said here. Appreciate you, Sunday, being in the building. I got a surprise for you next show, too. We're going to hold you down with something here because you show Giants content creators big love one time. All right. So we got a couple more before we get up out of here. I'm trying to think if I should save the best one for last. Let's go over here one time to these graphics and bring up the next question one time. Shout out to my brother, The Beard. He's got a couple features he's doing tonight. He's going to be on, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but he's doing a recording for it. And tonight he's going to be on a couple as well. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. He's at Tim Walk on Water, the number 2 after it. And make sure to follow me on Twitter if you're digging what you're hearing too, at Awthentik, the way I spell it, AWTHENTIK. And we are Awthentik and the Beard, man. Make sure to sub up. We do shows pretty much 4 times a week over here, man. Always talking about the Giants mainly, and my boys Washington football team fans. So we try to cover the NFC East as, a little bit. But the Eagles recaps and the Cowboys recaps have been slim to none lately. We've been kind of going away from that. I see Jeff Maldo in the building one time. What's up, fam? How you living? The Hub is in the building one time. What's up, Hub? How you living, fam? Man, we deep in here, man. 115 in the building across all platforms right now. Y'all know what it is. Let's get to this next question one time. Ooh, I can't even really remember what that one is. Let me just check something on this graphic, and we'll go to this one next if it's the right one. Oh, yeah. This one kind of goes back to the Cam Newton thing. With the injuries from Sunday versus the Cowboys, the season is over. I don't think we got to this one yet. A lot of these questions are very similar. If you think this is an overreaction, let me see an O in the chat. If you disagree and think this is reality, keep it authentic, and let me see a U in the chat one time. And we'll see how y'all feeling about this. And chop it up on this little topic just a little bit here. I'll give y'all a little bit of time. I got 5 U's to start that one up. Shout out Giants Nation in the building one time. Yeah, man. We can keep this one kind of short, I feel like. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. I always love that name, too. That's a fire name. Shout out to you one time in the building. He says this is an overreaction. I know he's still a bit optimistic about the season. Yo, Floyd Samuels, my man said, let's get to these mock drafts. Yo, that's so real, bro. That's so real right there. Ash Money says he's taking the under. Jeff Maldo's taking the under. M626M is taking the under. Joey G Sports is taking the under. Lax says this is an overreaction. I'm a little bit surprised about that one, Lax. Okay. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat to see your reasoning for that. Ash Money takes the under. The Giants are going to fail behind with this rough stretch, or fall behind. Yes, we're definitely going to fall behind with this rough stretch. It's going to be real tough, man. Afghanistan says hit that like button. Facts one time. Afghanistan in the building. BB Jones says go Cowboys. BB Jones was telling us all week. People was giving him a lot of shit about it, too. He was telling us all week the Cowboys are going to backhand us, and that is what they did. Troy Aikman was definitely right. I almost had that as one of the statements that Troy Aikman was right, but I think it's pretty obvious Troy Aikman was right. Giants are not in the same class as the Dallas Cowboys. Definitely not. So Braden says you. Shout out to Braden. I'm going to get Braden on one of these one day, too. We talked about that. King Tone takes the U. He's taking the under. Yeah. My man said, fall. Mr. The Hard Way says, fall behind. We've been behind. That's facts, bro. Giants were entering that game at 1-3, man, and we know that was our Super Bowl. I talked about that a little earlier on. That, this is our Super Bowl game, because if we could have won that game, we could have helped out the NFC East. Cowboys would have been at 3-2. Instead, they moved to 4-1. Giants would have been at 2-3, along with the Philadelphia Eagles, who snuck out a win, man, on Sunday. That was impressive, man. They showed a lot of resilience on that team. I mean, I got to agree with most of the people on the chat here, man. Like, definitely taking the under on this. Like, these injuries are brutal. And I think if you're on the side of no Mets, no Jets, no Nets, or Lax, I believe it was, who was also saying this might be an overreaction, I think you got to bring in Cam Newton. I'm drinking this Cherry Coke over here. Cherry Coke is delicious, man, but it'll back you up a little bit. But yeah, I think if you think that this is an overreaction, then I think you got to agree with the side to go out here and get Cam Newton, because this 5-game stretch is very important now at 1-4. If you lose these next 5 games, you're looking at 1-9. There is no coming back from 1-9. I don't think that 8-9, even if you won out the rest of the season, I don't think that 8-9 is going to get you in the playoffs. It's hard to kind of gauge this, though, because we're looking at a 17-game season, and no one has seen a playoff run in a 17-game season, so we really don't really know how things are going to end up at the end of the season, what kind of records are going to get us in. We know typically in the NFL, 9-7 normally could get you a wild card vibe. We've seen some teams get 8-8 wild card vibes. We've seen a couple teams here get 7-9 wild card vibes. I can remember, I think it was the Chargers that got a 7-9 berth one time. Maybe it was the Raiders back in the day. We saw the Washington football team win the division last season at 7-9, and the Giants were really close to winning the division at 6-10. So we know how to gauge a 16-game season. We don't really know how to gauge a 17-game season. Injuries are going to play a part for sure down the stretch, for sure. I remember when they first announced the 17-game season, I said to myself, and I might have said it on a podcast, the backup quarterback position's value now is going to skyrocket, because to have a quarterback be healthy for a 17-game season is very difficult. A lot of players were not for the 17-game season because of durability. Now, every position, the depth is even more important on your teams now. I think it's going to be really important here. Backup quarterback, backup running back. I'm telling you, the Cats was laughing at me saying that the backup running back situation was something to be addressed for the New York Giants. And now, look, we got our running back. He's going to be out about 2 to 4 weeks, maybe 2 to 5 weeks. We got our quarterback who could be out anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 weeks. We never know with the concussion protocols, man. I don't want to see Daniel Jones come out and get another concussion. We know how that goes. That ended Troy Aikman's career. Somebody was telling me today, Troy Aikman was just handing the ball off to Emmitt Smith. That's ludicrous, bro. Y'all watching too many streams. Troy Aikman, when I think about leader of men of that time in the 90s, that dude was the quintessential quarterback. He was the prototype for quarterback. Threw a lot of touchdowns to Michael Irvin. I'm not saying that team was not predicated on the run. They definitely had them hog mollies on that line, and Emmitt Smith was definitely a beast. But, a lot of people in the New York Giants community like to discredit other teams that are within the division, starting with the Dallas Cowboys, because we know a lot of Giants fans hate the Cowboys. I saw somebody post the other day a poll on Twitter that said, which team do you hate the most? The Cowboys, the Eagles, or the Washington football team? And I looked at it. I was about to answer. And then I was like, nah, I'm going to just stay out of this one because I don't hate no teams. I don't know. I don't hate nobody because they're on a team. I was chopping up with somebody else about that Troy Aikman thing today, and they were like, yeah, I just hate him because he's a Cowboy. I'm just like, what kind? You cannot go through life thinking like that. Because if you take that a couple steps deeper and hating people because of the situation that they are in, you're going to be teetering some lines you don't want to be teetering. I love CeeDee Lamb, one of my favorite players in the league right now. Love Zeke Elliott. Love Zeke Elliott. Everybody was saying he's overpaid. The contract is awful. Zeke Elliott is washed. He's losing the step. Why are we doubting men on the highest caliber of football? Why? Why? I don't doubt nobody in the NFL. I don't doubt that maybe a guy like even a guy like Cam Brown could come back and be a great player. I'm not going to doubt him and say it's impossible and say he's washed and use words that we know be disrespectful. It's no way. I can't do it. I'm sorry. And you can I'm not telling nobody to like nobody for nothing or hate whatever. Do what you want to do, man. It's your life. I'm not going to judge your life. I'm only looking at this through my lens. I don't get to see myself except, when I'm on camera and looking at StreamYard. But, at the end of the day, it's like I'm not going to hate nobody for who they play for. I just can't do it. And I see people saying Troy Aikman was overrated. And I'll highlight this comment just so we can address this just a little bit. Let me get down to this one real quick. My man, Fa Blizzard. I like the name. Fa Blizzard. That's a fire name. And the profile pic looking dope. I like them vibes. Aikman was overrated with the Kanye shrug, right? Was Eli overrated? That's what I want to ask you. At me when you answer it in the comments so I know it's yours, right? Because, look, the reason why Troy Aikman is not overrated, he won the big games. In a league of 32 teams, when it was all said and done, he won the games. And if our Blizzard says Eli was man, he said Eli Manning was overrated. You see? So, it's wild because I'm reading a comment from my homie, Real People, right underneath Fa Blizzard, saying he was. I'm good with that, Fa. I'm totally good. If you think Troy Aikman was overrated and you think Eli Manning was overrated, I'm good with it. I got no beef with that. Yeah, I'm one that thinks that, when you win the big game, we can't look at it as you being overrated. Because you won a big game. You made those playoff runs. I don't know about Troy Aikman's playoff numbers, but you made those runs. And Real People says Eli was clutch. Yeah, Eli was definitely clutch. And Troy Aikman was clutch. Troy Aikman won some big games, man, down the stretch. Commanded that team. I looked at Troy Aikman as a great leader, man. Troy Aikman's the kind of quarterback that's making those Joe Kane speeches in the huddle. Y'all know who Joe Kane is? Let's put the women and children to bed. Go hunting for dinner. That was Joe Kane. From the Program movie, which was a movie. I don't like to base my life on movies, but that's a real-life scenario, real-life situation. And Eli was clutch. But, Fa Blizzard, I really respect you, one, for that opinion of, I don't know if you're a Giants fan or not, but I definitely respect your opinion right there. That's real. And they won the big game multiple times, Mr. The Hard Way, multiple times. It's hard to win that many Super Bowls. It's really hard to win that many Super Bowls. And Jimmy Johnson was probably the only reason why that dynasty got broken up, man. They brought in Barry Switzer, and he won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson's roster. And then you just saw things kind of just fall apart for the Cowboys, and they really haven't gotten it together since. And right now, it's probably the first time you're looking at the Cowboys like, hey, they could make a Super Bowl run with this squad. looking at this last comment from Fob Blizz where he says, Eli going to be the first QB in the Hall of Fame with a losing record. 2 great Super Bowl runs, though. And did Eli end up with a losing record? I thought he might have got like a win there that last Miami Dolphins game to get it back to even. I'm not 100% sure on that. Somebody in the chat get me on that one, please. Perry Mack says Eli was underrated. Eli was tough as nails, but he made a lot of mistakes during the regular season too. You know, without the Super Bowls, I don't know if Eli Manning would be a Hall of Famer, you know. But when you win big games like that and you make big playoff runs like that and you beat the GOAT, yeah, man, you deserve to be first ballot for real. And I see the homie Braden actually got the stats on Eli. And, yeah, he finished 117 and 117. So I definitely like that, man. Shout out to Eli Manning one time. Giants Nation is in the building. Eli Manning, and Afghan says, correct? Yep, I think it is. So we got 2 people that are confirming the 117. That's a lot of games, man. Eli Manning, one thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration when they are talking about him being in the Hall of Fame is the durability, man. The dude played that many games. Just seeing it, 117, he played that many. Wow, he played that many games. It's crazy. We got to watch Eli Manning do damage for so many games there. You're looking at 200-plus games. It's ridiculous, man. So salute to Eli Manning. And I love his saying, once a Giant, always a Giant. That once a Giant, almost a Giant almost got me about to buy an Odell Beckham jersey. If Odell Beckham start going back off, I might have to give you a Browns jersey. Because I'm one that's always for the players. JPP, I might have to get me one of those jerseys too. And I come from the Mitchell and Ness era where Jay-Z was going on tours and he would wear a different jersey in every city. I always thought that was real fire, man. And yeah, Five Blizzard, Odell did prolong Eli's career. I remember one time somebody told me, yeah, Eli Manning made Odell Beckham who he is. I was just like, bro, you smoking that good White Rock. Because Odell Beckham was just, them first 3 years, he was just wild. So just to get back to this question a little bit more here, with the injuries from Sunday versus the Cowboys, is the season over? I never quit, man, so I can't say the season is over. But if the Giants want to try to find a way to salvage this, I think they got to go get Cam Newton. I really do. We do show signs of being able to run the RPO. And I think you could get Cam Newton and just maybe start him for like 4 games maybe. It all depends. They're going to know what's up with Daniel Jones first. So if in a couple days you get the timeline for Daniel Jones and it's like, you know, he's back in 2 weeks, then maybe you don't go out there and get Cam Newton and you just deal with Mike Glennon and try to win some games with Mike Glennon. We did win a game with Colt McCoy last year, so Braden said that good White Rock. Yeah, it's 2 White Rocks on this planet. You know, the good White Rock is the one that really gets you messed up. The other White Rock's pretty crazy too. Don't mess with that stuff, y'all. Remember that bite from Waterboy where it was like, which leads me to my next point. Don't do drugs. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of those vibes. But yeah, if you want to salvage the season, it's obvious we got to go out there and get a running back. Maybe you guys can help me out with some guys that are out in the free agent market as far as running backs that we could probably get. But what you don't want to do is try to do too much to salvage this season and lose some of your things that you have as far as leverage going into 2022. Like, don't go out here and waste no draft picks on trading for no running back. You know, yeah, I'm right there with you, Tone. I ain't never messed with none of that stuff. I'm a little 420 friendly, and that's about that. But yeah, don't mess up your season, man. Like, trying to trade draft picks for a running back or any other pieces for that matter. You could maybe go get Gallman. I see that. AP's out there. Yep, I could see that. AP might not be the kind of back with the age that he is at right now to come in and really do some damage with the New York Giants. I don't know. That offensive line is just pitiful. And Five Blizzard says, are you over the Saquon experiment like I am? I'm not really over it. You know, we got a lot of football left to play where we will see Saquon on the field a little bit more. And we know he is a dynamic playmaker. It's unfortunate that he didn't even get a chance to really get going in this game. But let's say he's out 3 weeks. Giants are 1-4 right now. He can come back after the bye. That's what I'm looking at. So Saquon has a half a season to go. And maybe he can salvage it, man. You know, when he had the high ankle sprain, Saquon did show us that he is a fast healer. He came back from that high ankle sprain faster than any running back I've ever seen and came back and got 1,000 yards that year. So, I mean, if he can come back, salvage it, I'm totally for it. But the one thing I don't want to do is, like, go pay Saquon Barkley like Ezekiel Elliott money. That would be completely silly right now. Can't do that. Definitely can't do that. But, yeah, you know, I think the Daniel Jones timeline really tells if the season is over. If it's 4 weeks, we know now we can't rush Daniel Jones back. Daniel Jones has got to be the kind of guy that let him get through this injury, make sure he's 100% before you get him back on the field. And if it's more than 3-4 weeks, then yeah, I say you go get Cam Newton like yesterday. Go bring him in right now. Go get a running back. We don't know what's going on with Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton right now. It's going to be important for those guys to get back healthy. And with Kadarius Toney out there, we know we got productivity on the offense. Andrew Thomas is a big piece of what's going to happen with the rest of this season because the offensive line seems to be, in the passing game, totally different when Andrew Thomas is on the field. Nate Solder was trying on Sunday, man. He was trying. He just don't got it no more. You know, he just don't got it. I like him better when he's at the right tackle. We know that combination can work. It can do things with Andrew Thomas on the left tackle. They had Matt Skura at the left guard that game against New Orleans Saints. Billy Price at center. Will Hernandez at right guard. Nate Solder at right tackle. I think that unit can work. And then you go out there, you get Cam Newton. If not, you rely on Mike Glennon for a couple games. So for me, this one, with the injuries, the season's not over. Take the push. I mean, mentally in my head, I'm saying it's pretty much over, man, because we're 1-4 right now. That's a difficult hole to climb out of. But if Saquon and Daniel can get back after the bye, you're looking at 9 games left. You'd have to go on a crazy run. I had the Giants at 9-8 at the end of the year, and it's not looking like that. We're struggling to find wins on this schedule for sure, man. So yeah, I will take the push on this, to be honest, because the season is kind of over. Get me to week 7, week 8. I'll give you a definitive answer on this one for sure. But I do think, you know, as far as Dave Gettleman at the top, man, we got to find a way to bring in better talent in the trenches. That's where football games are won. I know a lot of people like it passing and touchdowns and all that stuff. That's the stuff that jumps off the page. But yeah, we got to find a way to get it done in the trenches, and I'll leave that one with a couple more here. I have to look at the rest of the NFC's teams' records before I can speak on that. That's facts. Yeah, and the Cowboys are the front runners, so you might want to look at not only the NFC East, but the rest of the NFC, like you said. Yeah, NFC is very important because what teams are going to be able to fall into these wild card positions? I don't think you're going to get something like last season where it was like 6-10 is looking like it could almost get you in and whatnot. That's not going to happen because the Cowboys are the front runners right now. Yeah, Afghan, you've definitely been screaming trenches. You, Miz, a few others I know that's all y'all been talking about is offensive line help. And I wanted to highlight this one from Fob Blizzard too. He says, we went 5-3 in the second half of last season, so anything's possible. Yeah, you got to go out there and play the game. So that's my reasoning for saying that the season is not over. And Fob Blizzard, you're definitely right on that. The Giants can put together a little streak here, and it could happen towards the end of the season. You got to find a way to get a win in the next 5 for sure, you know. Many guys says trench warfare. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's take it to this next one. Trying to think what track we want to run for this one. Let's run this. This one's a really good one. This is the one that had people arguing the most on Twitter today. Jabril Cox is a clown for posting, quote unquote, we out here giving concussions. Let me know if y'all think this is an overreaction. Give me an O in the chat if you think this is an overreaction. Give me a hand if you think this is a push and we should just ignore it. Or give me that U if you think that people who are upset about this, they're overreacting. Because this one might be the longest topic actually we talk about today. I wanted to bring up a couple highlights about this, a couple things. I wanted to talk about character. I wanted to talk about football in its totality and the attitude that comes with football and the kind of players. I kind of talked about this a little bit already. Y'all surprising me. I'm gonna keep it funky. Y'all surprising me. Perry Max says y'all can't say that. Roman says he's a clown. Mr. Mini Guy, Fob Blizzard, and Junebug. I like that name, Junebug. South vibes. All take the under, which they say this isn't an overreaction. He is a clown. No Mets, no Jets. I'm sorry, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Takes the under, says he is a clown. 40 Lux says he is a clown. Logan Ryan didn't brag breaking Dak's leg. That's facts. It was a little more gruesome, but that's facts. Yeah, we didn't post we out here taking out QBs last season. Ed Squire says he's a clown. Made me hate the Cowboys that much more, Roman says. He's a clown in my opinion, but I'm moved on, Braden says. And that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm about to get to this. King Tone says, lame clown. Super Ties World in the building. What's up, fam? Takes the under. Says it's not an overreaction. He's a clown. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. I feel like Jets should be second on that. I don't know why. It just rolls better. Clown emojis, for sure. All right, so let's get to this one, y'all. Now, this is my thoughts on this right here. And I'm going to keep it funky with y'all. I'm going to take the O. I think this is an overreaction. And this is why. I'm going to bring up a point. There was a thread that I got to get back to responding to a bunch of comments in that one. When we're talking about football, I think it's hard to look at the character of the men that are playing the game, okay? This is a very, very Neanderthal kind of sport, okay? Where, for me, it's going to war. I think that these football players are going to war, especially in this day and age in the NFL, okay? With the speed that players, the velocity that players are getting hit with, this is war, pretty much. What I'll say about Jabril Cox is I would not have done that, okay? I can say in my character, the kind of person that I am, I wouldn't do that. But I'm also not throwing people around on the line and smacking heads for a living and getting paid for it. You know, so I think we got to take into consideration where these people come from. It kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier. Sometimes these players that you get to be a defensive end or middle linebacker or left tackle or right guard, these guys that are in the trenches, their whole life has been turmoil. That's why you see a lot of these players get into a lot of trouble off the field and on the field. Do we look at Myles Garrett as a clown as well for losing his cool in a game, taking his helmet off, bashing a player? Totally out of line, right? Totally out of line. But we're talking about, I'm not even going to call them men. We're talking about boys under the age of 24 years old, 25 years old, just getting the league. I've lost my cool before. I know that. You can maybe say I had a clown moment, but when you see a man develop, you can't call me a clown today. Well, you can call me whatever you want. I don't care. To be honest, I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. But I just think that this is something that the Giants fan base should not be harping on, because in the day and age when I played football, man, this is what you was trying to do. You was trying to concuss players. I know the comparison to Logan Ryan breaking Dak's leg. I'm going to tell you why that one's just a little bit different. When you break somebody's leg like that, similar to the leg that got broken in the Washington game with Nick Gates, everybody is in panic because you see somebody's leg completely sideways poking out their skin. Those are injuries that a player could maybe never come back from. Like I said, I don't think that I would have done this, but I'm not looking at him like he's a clown for posting this hit on his Instagram. He stated facts. He didn't say, hope you get another concussion or, hope you don't make it back in the season. And he said, we're out here giving concussions. Are they not? Hate to say it. Are they not? They are out here giving out concussions. If it would have been something that was life or career threatening, yeah, it's even worse. We don't want to see this. We don't look at this kind of behavior as you're showing class here, bro. Like, oh my God, you're such a classy human being right here by posting Daniel Jones' injury. But at the same time, I'm not going to show sympathy and pity for the Giants fans out here that are mad at him for posting that on his play. His job is to knock people out. That's his job. I'll take this all the way back to the scandal that happened in New Orleans with Greg Williams in a playoff game where he talked about take that guy out. I think it was Brett Favre. And, they had a target on Brett Favre. Take him out the game. Because NFL is a physical sport, man. This is not like basketball, okay? NBA guys dribbling the ball around, finesse, looking all cool, looking all pretty. Steph Curry layup. Oh, LeBron out here flopping. That's not what the NFL is. The NFL, every play could be your last play. Why is that? Because these players got to go full throttle trying to knock you out. That's really what it is about when you play defense. Big hits, we used to celebrate big hits all the time. I don't know if you guys remember in the late 90s, 2000s, there was a show on ESPN. It was called Jacked Up, where we celebrated concussion hits. The people that have a problem with this kind of behavior, football is not the sport for you to be watching. You know, this is not a game where they hire people off of character. You've seen it countless times, even in the New York Giants organization. Granted, it was with a kicker in the most recent one. Mr. Brown himself out here beating his wife, and the Giants signed this guy to an extension. Why is that? Because in football, beating your wife don't have nothing to do with that when it comes to the New York Giants. They're looking for a guy that can put field goal kicks through the goalpost. They don't care about his character, right? That's what it's looking like. Look at the Dallas Cowboys as an example. Can't name all the players they had over there that had countless issues with domestic violence. Terrible to be hitting on your wife. That's a horrible thing. But you got to look at what they do for a living. They smack skulls for a living, okay? So for me, when a guy's out there celebrating how big of a hit he had, I don't think it's the most classy thing. But I'm also not going to take to my Twitter and go, look at this. This is, what are you? Nah, I'm not doing that, bro. I'm not doing that. Have there been any New York Giants players that came out and said anything about Jabril Cox? I'll wait a little bit, take a sip of this cherry Coke. Anybody seeing that? I haven't seen any New York Giants players address it. And me as a fan, Mac, I will never celebrate somebody's injury. No, never. I'm never going to celebrate an injury. Ever, 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 ever. But I know what it's like to celebrate hits like this. I could take this back to when I played ball, right? Had a homie on my team named Ajibade. He was an alpha, and he was my competition at quarterback. We ran a 2-quarterback system when I was coming up on JV. And I'll never forget this game against BCC. It was like week 3. And this dude was lowering his shoulder and helmet and laying people out. And I wasn't a man yet. I was a kid. I was a boy, for sure. He was laying people out. They had to call. They didn't have, like, doctors on the sidelines when I was coming up playing football. It was, when it got serious, you called the hospital. Somebody dialed 911. They came to pick up one kid. As the kid was getting loaded up in the ambulance, my boy Ajibade knocked out another player. They had to take both these kids in the same ambulance back to the hospital. And we all celebrated. We didn't celebrate the injury, man. We celebrated the big hit. We celebrated giving out concussions because we weren't men. We were children. We were boys. And I know a lot of people like to want to put their life morale on another person. I'll never do that. I don't know where you come from. I cannot put my morale on you. There's 2 things I don't do. I don't put my behavior on anybody else, and I don't count nobody pockets. You ain't never gonna see me talking about, yo, how much money you make, man? What you doing with your money? I don't do that. You do what you want with your money. You do what you do with your life. I can maybe comment on it and say, hey, that's tasteless. Yeah, that's not classy. It's not classy. There's a lot of things that go on in the NFL that are not classy. Was it classy when Leonard Williams was ripping off that helmet on Sunday of another player? No. I don't know who the player was for the Cowboys, but when Devontae Booker was running for that touchdown, this is a sport where you test the will of man. Somebody ripped his helmet off. And I'm sure that wasn't classy either. Right? And yeah, it's after the fact. You already knocked the guy out the game, and you go to your Instagram and you say, we out here giving concussions. In other words, we're out here hitting the hell out of people, right? But in football, you celebrate the big hit. I know they've tried to soften up the game a little bit with the rules and things like that. And that's to protect the players because this is a very dangerous game. This is most of the time people get injured when it's outside of an ACL injury. It's from a big hit. We saw Joe Burrow in that game take a massive hit and got back on that field, man. Some people are just set up a little bit differently, too, and they could take the bigger hits. I don't know where that comes from. That could be God-given. I don't know what it is. But I just think that if it was a reversed situation here, and let's say it was Logan Ryan, and he said we out here giving concussions, I don't think we would be giving him as much shit for this. But because it's our quarterback, we want sympathy a little bit. I get it, man. You know, as a fan, that play hurts. When I see that I'm like standing up with both hands on my head. That play hurts. But as a player and as a young player, young man, rookie in this league, I believe Jabril Cox is. You know, I'm not saying give him the pass, but I don't think we can judge his character as a clown for this. And I honestly, man, like that word, I don't like that word. There's a couple of words that they're trigger words for me. Clown is kind of one of them where I'm just like, damn, like you can take somebody, one situation and judge them as a clown. It's kind of like, especially when people aren't grown development, they're boys. You know, yeah, it doesn't show class for sure. You know, I can't argue that, and I probably wouldn't have did it. You know, that I can't say though because I'm not in their shoes. I'm not in the NFL for a reason. I don't like hitting people, and I don't like getting hit for damn sure. I don't like getting hit. Let me get to this one right here from the homie Lax 044 one time in the building. It's just bad karma. There was a guy on the Cowboys a few years back who hurt Chris Carson with a late hit and then broke his own leg the next week. Yeah, sometimes karma does work like that, Lax. I tell you what, too, man. I never like to talk about religious stuff on the channel too much, but this is a little instance where I could bring up a little bit about my spirituality. I'm not a religious person, really. I ain't been to church in forever, but definitely spiritual. I definitely talk to my God, you know. And the day before that game, I ain't never done this. I said a prayer like for everybody's health on the field. And as everyone was getting injured, I was just like, whoa, this feels kind of like opposite karma. Sometimes karma don't catch you way down the race. So we don't know. Sometimes you see instant karma. You know, you see it happen right off the bat sometimes. I don't know, man. You know, I know we're all trying to figure out our place in our world in this universe, man. So I can't speak to the karma too much. I believe in karma, though, for sure, yeah. But I believe in karma as if you're a person out here doing bad things, then bad things will come back to you. Can I look at this as a bad thing? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a little bit classless, but I'm one that wanted to just move on from it. I saw it, just like I told y'all about the post that I saw somebody had posted on Twitter where they were like, who do you hate the most in the division? Cowboys, Eagles, or Washington football team? And I just didn't answer because I'm like hate is such a strong word, man. Like, and to hate somebody because of the uniform that they wear, I'm telling you, we know where that can go. We know where that can go. We've seen it in the walks of life in America where people can be on a plane and somebody come up with a head wrap and it completely puts fear in your heart because of their uniform. You feel what I'm saying? I've dealt with it in situations where you just get pulled over as a black man by the police, man. And you know you're not getting treated that same way. I love when I get pulled over and I got a couple white homies in the car. You already know. You might get a quick pass on this one. Or females sometimes. Police seem to, you know, allow females to get away with stuff too. So the judgment thing, I'm not going to judge Jabril Cox as a clown in this situation. You know? And we know football's you got to have that mentality sometimes in football. And every time I talk to somebody about this on Twitter, I had to ask them. I was like, yo, did you ever play football on pads? Organized football? And a lot of them who sided with what I'm about to bring up, you know, that they wanted sympathy shown from the player and stuff like that, which I'm sure Jabril Cox is not looking at this like, man, I hope Daniel Jones is injured for the rest of his life. You know, I hope the rest of y'all get injured. I'm sure he's not looking at it like that. He's looking at it like, look at what we're doing, right? But I just think that this sport, that's why they call it the gridiron. It is a physical sport, and you have to have a certain kind of mentality to play this game. And that's why I bring up the point about a lot of people who disagreed with this had never played football with pads on. Man, are you familiar with the Oklahoma drill that they had to remove from football? Because a lot of players were getting hurt. I can remember, shout out to my homie Fats, man. My brother had us one time doing Oklahomas in the back. Oh, it was actually right up the street from my crib. in this field. And my homie Fats, hence the nickname, he was a lineman. He wore number 72. He played defensive tackle, a little bit of offensive tackle, but mostly played defensive tackle. And my brother would just have us doing Oklahomas, and I'm sure I got a concussion at some point doing those. I remember the war marks on my helmet was a reason for my boy to celebrate, you know? And it was I wore white helmets when I played Pee Wee ball, and it was a mean war mark, and we celebrated that. All throughout my football career, people celebrated big hits. Like, you know, a lot of people brought this up on Sunday too. You know, you want to knock the snot out of somebody's nose. You know where that comes from, right? That comes from real football. And when you knock the snot out of somebody, you were happy about that. Nowadays, I know it's a lot of young people came up different, but like you can't fault people for coming up. This go all the way back to the beginning of when we first started this stream 2 hours ago. And my homie Brooklyn, he was saying like, yeah, in Dominican Republic, we fight roosters. That's just because of where they come from. The circumstances where they come from, those things happen in those environments. And I made a comparison to the D.C. gun violence that's happening right now, right? Because a lot of young youth go around toting with guns because that's the environment they come up in. They don't put the guns in that environment for the most part. But everybody got one, found a way to get one. I got a lot of my youngins getting gun charges right now. And it's because the environment they're in. We was in that same environment in D.C. coming up. It wasn't that much of a gun type of environment. People were still fighting. And now, this don't just go for D.C., this go across the world. A lot of people are ending arguments or ending disputes with guns. And Braden says this right here, this is a good point. We were told, go knock the hide off someone's back. Like, you cannot play football with a sympathetic mind. I hate to break this down to y'all. And it is you, the fan, who watches this every Sunday and chooses to ignore the barbaric aspect of NFL football and college football and every level of football. For us to watch this and then want sympathy is kind of crazy, I think. So for me, on this Jabril Cox thing, I'm going to give him a pass on it because I'm not going to pay it no real mind. You talking about a young man out here celebrating his big hit? I'm not really going to pay it too much mind. I'm not going to be the fan that goes and fights with fans and saying like, yo, you're classless if you agree with this. And I'm going to get to this super chat real quick one time, and I'm going to bring up one more point about this. Shout out Kenthinji Kenoti. I really got to read that every time I say it. Goes back to the no alphas on the team. If you want alphas, then plays like that and the attitude that goes with it is par for the course. Yes. I think there's a typo in there, but I definitely understand what you're saying there. If you want alphas that play like that. Yeah, that's what it is, man. Like, and that's why you get guys like Ndamukong Suh going out here crushing people, but then also stepping on somebody's head. You know? This is why James Harrison was out here laying people out with no apologies necessary. It's that kind of game. We're not talking about like a basketball injury that happened on a hard foul. Totally different circumstances there. LeBron James go on a fast break and you playing defense and you hack him to the ground and he breaks his leg. Bro, you look crazy if you show that on your Instagram the next day. And you might even look crazy in this case with Jabril Cox posting this on his Instagram. It's not necessary by any means. I agree with that for sure. It's not necessary by any means. But I'm not going to be the guy out here playing captain save a quarterback in a game that is built off of physicality. And when Troy Aikman says the New York Giants are not in the same class as the Dallas Cowboys, toughness is the first thing that comes to my mind. We don't got those players. We got them finesse guys. We got those guys who can go out there and make some fantastic catches. Kadarius Toney might be an alpha. Kadarius Toney might be an alpha for real. And that might be why he swung. And people not going to like that. But if you watch this game every Sunday, let's not act like they out there playing flag football. When our team gets a big hit, we love that. We love that. Nobody want to celebrate nobody's injuries, obviously. But when our team gets a big hit, we celebrate that. You might look on the ground, dudes concussed. Oh, man, you remember when people used to get them T-Rex hands after getting the big hits? The Bengals, I used to feel sorry for the Bengals because it just seemed crazy. And maybe that's what bred Vontaze Burfict to be the kind of player he was. But Vontaze Burfict made it a point that if you came across the middle, you was getting laid down. And I think a lot of the reason that happened is because James Harrison was just laying out wide receiver after wide receiver left and right. James Harrison will be out there on the edge, watch a wide receiver catch the quick slant. He wouldn't even rush sometimes. He would watch him catch the quick slant and just blindside the hell out of him and knock him to the ground. You know, football is a very physical game, man, and it's hard to want to harp on these kind of things about class when you're on a playing field that has no room for that. Nobody's thinking about, oh, I'm going to be classy. We're not thinking about that. Good sportsmanship, that's cool. I commend players that have good sportsmanship, but when you don't have good sportsmanship, it don't bother me. It really don't bother me one bit. And that brings me to this point right here. Carl Banks, a lot of Giants fans were giving Carl Banks shit for his statements on it. And I didn't see the whole conversation, but this is what I saw. And this is what everybody was reposting that they were mad at. He said, you guys should probably remove me from this thread, because he said what he had to say about it. He didn't brag about hurting DJ, did he? I didn't see him, right? I didn't see him bragging about hurting DJ. You can interpret the words however you want to, but we know how words can be misused, misread, all of that. I had somebody the other day say this fight is over in reference to the Deontay Wilder fight, and I said 5 rounds later. I said 20 minutes later, like, the fight's still not over. He was like, oh, you know what I meant by over. It's over like he can't win. All right, well, people use their words differently, and I'm not giving Jabril Cox the pass on that. His words are pretty plain. You can read it and interpret it how you want to. He says he didn't brag about hurting DJ, nor did he say he was glad about it. He reposted like most millennials do. Get over it. Stop wasting energy, which to me was the most important part of that whole tweet. It ain't that deep. And I got him in here. I agree with Carl Banks on this. This statement right here, I agree with this statement a lot. I really do. Like, our quarterback got hurt, man. People was getting at me in my comments saying Carl Banks is an analyst and he should show sympathy for the team that he broadcasts for and all this stuff. Carl Banks never been a dude to hide no cards. Go look at any podcast from Carl Banks. He's going to keep it funky. We talking about a guy that played in the 80s, which was one of the toughest eras as far as the rules go, where you could go across the middle and get cracked and the defenders could do whatever they wanted. Okay? And now people are kind of telling Carl Banks, hey, man, you're not on the field no more. Adjust your character to fit our atmosphere and society. My thing is like this, man. Everybody is different. No two people are the same. You might have came up in a household that had a lot of class, a lot of integrity. But a lot of these football players in these trenches, they come from tough lives, man. And they didn't go to jobs and learn how to deal in society and work for another person and know how to be a person of extreme class. These were people that were barbaric their entire football career and sometimes never had to work any job. They've been playing football their whole entire life. So for me, it's not about giving them a pass. It's about not giving them shit. Right? This is about you gonna just sit on Twitter and just cry all day about it, about a man's game where they literally slam helmets every play. Even me, when I watch football, I kind of ignore the trenches a little bit. And this is why I kind of got into a little beef with Mike Too Nice one time when I asked him, I said, yo, I wasn't watching the trenches and I was at the game. This fool wouldn't even tell me what happened in the trenches. Instead, he wanted to start an argument with me. And for that reason, I said, you know what? I won't comment on your stuff no more. Just unfollow me. I won't follow you, whatever, right? Because I don't got to like nobody. Just because we support the Giants don't mean we got to completely like each other just for that. I've met people in the Giants community that are racist. I've met people who are sexist. I'm not going to get down with you with those kind of vibes. So for me, when we're judging these people that are in the trenches, man, we gotta get them a pass, bro. Like, it's not like they're going to work and sitting at a desk being a secretary, yo. They're getting paid to smack skulls, yo. So for me, I wasn't going to harp on that too much. And a lot of people was getting at Carl Banks, and you wasting your energy. He didn't respond to much more. Only thing I saw Carl Banks do after this whole thing, he retweeted something that I said where it was like, stop placing your moral on other people. Like, yo, you came up a certain way. Like, yo, let me keep it funky here. If you came up in your household with a silver spoon, bro, and you never went through any adversity, the moral that you have in your house or the morale that y'all designed in your house could be totally different than my house. You might be talking back to your mom. You might be going out, staying out late past your curfew. You might be doing all kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know how you came up. I came up through turmoil. My parents didn't have all the money in the world. I came up in a single family household and with a single mom. And my mom was at work a lot of the time during the day, but her beliefs and her morale, it was instilled in me even when she was gone. But some of these players in the NFL, you know, maybe they didn't have a mother at the house. Maybe mom was strung out on dope. Maybe pops was out in the streets late at night partying and never home to take care of his son to even instill any kind of value in his character. These people have only been on this earth for 20 some odd years. That's not enough time to become a man, and some of them are still becoming men, which is why I really look at Isaiah Wilson as a New York Giant right now. I'm very happy that the Giants gave him a second chance, because a lot of these players don't get that second chance, and all they know is football. Some of these people can deal with mental adversity, mental disabilities, and it's covered up on the field and no one even knows it. You don't even care as long as they're making plays for your football team. But we never once stop to think about the human and why that human has that kind of character coming out and why they're showing that, especially as somebody who's only 23 years old, 22 years old. All we do is judge. We sit back from our couch and judge. We say, oh, he's washed. He's got no character. He's a clown. He's this, he's that. I try to never disrespect a man when commenting on somebody. And like my homie Super Taj says in the chat, I totally believe in second chances, third chances, fourth chances, man. You know, I see this kid. Let me take a sip of this real quick. Every time I go to the grocery store, right, I see this kid, and he's always right there by the shopping carts. He waiting for people to come out, right? And he says, hey, can I help you with your groceries for a couple dollars? I'm just trying to feed my fam. He's a young kid too, man. And yo, I seen him there probably about a good 8-9 times already. And this time, I've given him like $1 or $2 before. And this time I was like, I got down to the bottom of the escalator. He was behind me. And I was like, man, I should go back up there one time, man, and holler at the kid and like offer him a job. Cause I have a recording studio in my basement. That's where I do all my shows from. And I work with a lot of artists. I've worked with a bunch of big name artists and a bunch of local artists as well. And I could teach somebody how to do a portion of my job pretty easily in probably a 20-hour course. I could probably teach somebody how to do a portion of my job, at least the beginning, which is called tracking an artist. And I looked and I was like, man, should I go? And I didn't go back to holler at him, but I know next time I see him, I'm gonna go holler at him, right? And I was gonna just offer the kid a job, because to have that kind of resilience to just stand there all damn day, to me, it said something about a kid who is developed beyond his years and maybe has the character to be a great man. And maybe there's nobody out here giving him a chance or a second chance. So, you know, when judging these NFL players, we just got to think about where they at. You know, if you went to a prison, let's say, and I'm not saying that playing in the NFL is like prison, but there are some correlations that can compare. If you went to a prison, a lot of them people going to be just out of pocket saying wild, crazy shit because of the environment that they're in, you know? But that don't mean that you, the person with the good character or the good judgment, as you would call it, can't look at them and try to find some good in them. And I think a lot of that applies to football, man. It's like, yo, these dudes, man, a lot of them, they've been doing things their way for a long time. And they found a way to be successful at it. A lot of us do believe in karma. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, you know what? It's me against the world. Tupac had an album called Me Against the World. It's one of the best titles ever for an album, not only in hip-hop, but in any genre. Because a lot of people feel like that, man. And we just can't sit back and judge, man. He had a song called Only God Can Judge Me on that album. The title speak for itself, man. Like, we can't be out here being like, clown this, clown that. I see people jump into people's streams, and they see somebody say a take, and they go, who's this clown emojis, all this, all that. Hey, man, at least they got the guts to be up there and put their face on camera and talk to people about that, you know? So maybe I'm not necessarily saying give these people a pass, but have some understanding before you judge their character. That's the one thing that I try not to do, is judge somebody's character unless they repeatedly show you that that's who they are, and that's not a one-time thing or a two-time thing or whatever. And maybe in hindsight, Jabril Cox looks at this and goes, I probably shouldn't have did that. I'm sure I've posted something on Twitter and been like, nah, maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I shouldn't have said that one right there. Right? And that happens. But today, in this day and age, a lot of people act like you got to be perfect. You know, like you can't make a mistake and say some wild stuff one time. Oh, you're completely canceled now. That's new. That's internet age type stuff. And I'm one that's always going to give somebody a second chance, man. I'm like, I'll wait for you to show me that that's not a part of your character. If you repeatedly do it, you know, I can't get down with you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the homie Lax044 one time. Let me pull this one up real quick. And I hope I didn't miss no super chats, y'all. I tried to open up the chat on the side to have two of them just so I could kind of have an extra warning on it. Lax says, shout out my homie Lax one time in the building. Appreciate you being here, Lax. My day one. You already know what it is. You know how I feel about you, fam. He says, I think most of the people outraged over his post are people who never played football before. Was it distasteful? Yes. But is it a big deal? Not really. Yo, man, I think you summed that up. Like, dead perfect. It don't get no better. Like, that's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. It's not like my man just broke his leg off and he's never playing again. And he's like, yeah, I'm out here taking legs off. I think we got to just put that one under the rug and just let it go. It ain't no thing, man. He's a young player. And I wish the best for him moving forward. You know, and he'll learn something from this. We all experience builds character. You know, experience is what builds character, man. And one incident doesn't change your character. You know, reputation is built by character. You know, and the repetition of it is what builds your character. It's the first time I've ever heard anything about this kid doing something like this. And to me, it's not that crazy. It's not that crazy to me, you know? So I had to just let that one go. Shout out to all y'all still in the building one time. This has been a real long podcast. We 2.5 hours, man. We talked about it being a therapy session, man. I couldn't do this without y'all in the building. I appreciate y'all being here, man. Giants Nation, y'all know what it is. We in the building one time, man. But I'll talk a little bit about moving forward here before we wrap this up. Make sure y'all check us out tomorrow. We're going to be doing our Regal recap on all the NFC East games with a focus on the Washington football team versus the New Orleans Saints and the New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys here. Let me get this graphic off the screen. And for those of y'all that are new here, we do a show on Tuesday and Thursdays called The Best Division in Football with Awthentik and the Beard. Granted, we aren't the best division in football right now. We do still own the most rings, I believe, and everybody in the division has a ring. Only division to do that. Glock, I see you in the building. What's up, fam? Good to see you here, man. Afghan says, depending on the context, I'm not the biggest fan, but I'll protect his right to say it. Good stuff, Awthentik. I appreciate you being here, Afghan, 100%. If y'all got any questions y'all want to throw out here before we get out of here, I'll probably do another good 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. We still got a bunch of folks in the building one time. The chat, yo. Biceps in the building. Y'all know what it is. Left side, strong side in the building, man. So let's talk about this game a little bit more, man. The New York Giants, man. I think another thing that we're kind of 24-hour stream. That's right, Justin Roman. You know what it is. I think one of the things that we're ignoring here as Giants fans too, man, is this might be a bad team. This might be a bad team. And I know I talked about it starting in the trenches, which we know the trenches on offense is half of the offense. There's 5 players that belong in the trenches on the offensive line. So it's pretty much half of the offense. You got a quarterback and you got 5 other players doing damage, right? the Giants in the trenches are one of the worst teams in the NFL. We failed to convert on third down in this game. 4 for 13. Let me make sure. I got to check this text from the Beard one time because we might be pushing over into his time here. Okay, so the Beard is about to go live here, and we are going to have to cancel this stream real quick. But I just wanted to talk about the 4 for 13 and 8 for 14 on third down. Giants are going to have to clean that up. That's something that's detrimental to the game. But listen, y'all, I definitely appreciate every one of y'all in the building today, man. Today was a really good show, man. What I'll try to do is the Beard's got an auction for Over the Years channel that's going to be going live here in a second. And I will maybe come back and do a stream towards the evening, maybe about 8, 9 o'clock, man. Because I know a lot of Giants fans want to talk about this. And maybe that'll be the topic. Are the Giants a bad team? Y'all let me know. Before we get up out of here, let's get them biceps one time. In the chat, y'all know what it is. Left side, strong side. Roman, I appreciate you in the building. Silo Ren, Super Taj, Braden. My man Mac, the Giants fans. Glock, Justin. Roldy was in the building. Logic's in the building one time. Sunday was in the building one time. Afghan, Word, Lax. All of y'all, man. I got a lot of love for y'all. Y'all know what it is, man. Authentic in the Beard. Left side, strong side. We in the building. Y'all be good. I'm going to try to get back and chop it up with y'all around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We're going to see how that goes, man. I got a little bit of work to do myself here in the studio. Hope y'all enjoyed this conversation, man. Y'all be good until we see each other next time, man. Y'all be safe. Y'all know what it is. Peace out, y'all.